after 7 o'clock, and I will call the Minnetrista City Council meeting to order for Monday, February the 3rd. Would you please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Cheryl Fisher, the mayor. To my left are council members Vander Lindy, Hunt, Donahue, Christians, and our city engineer, Mark Erickson. To my right are our city staff, our city administrator, Mike Funk, our city attorney, Ron Beatty, our community development director, David Abel, our assistant administrator, Mike Baroni, and our director of public safety, Paul Falls. Our city clerk is at the table over there taking our minutes judiciously, so that would be that. The next item on our orange agenda then is to approve the agenda as it was presented. We do want to change one thing. We need to change the EDA to the end of the meeting, or to start after the end of the meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of adding the EDA to the end of the regular council meeting.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Motion will carry 5-0. Persons to be heard. I have the two people for Red Oak, so we'll save that for when we get to Red Oak. And I have a couple with water. So I don't know if you are together or if one is the same address. So I would like to, if you have something in common that you'd like to talk about, that's fine. But otherwise, I would call Crystal Jensen. Is that correct? Okay. Give your name, your address for the record, please.
My name is Crystal Jensen. I live at 4729 Merganser in the Hunter's Crest development. And I guess I just kind of wanted to be a representative of what's happening with the water in Hunter's Crest. We have a small closed group Facebook page which isn't representative of the HOA. It's just a group of people who live in the area. And we've had over 80 people respond to having problems with their water, if it's discoloration or if it's a smell. And it's really becoming a big problem in our community. And I guess collectively we're trying to be heard. I know Mark gets a lot of calls. We're always calling Gary. We've spoken with Ike, who was here earlier today. And I guess what I'm mostly concerned about is the flushings, because that seems to be forcing the discolored water into our homes. And I personally had my water tested, the orange water that came out of my faucet on December 3rd, and found that the arsenic levels were beyond acceptable, 7 times higher than the EPA recommended level. And I'm not once ever trying to tell people that it's my day-to-day drinking water. It was the orange water that came out during flushing. And the fact is that those levels of arsenic and radon now live internally in the pipes in my home. And I moved out here to start a family. And I just feel like I was kind of sold this beautiful package, and now I'm living in a community where I don't feel safe drinking the water. And there's a lot of other people and other families just like me who feel the same way. And so I guess I just wanted to be a voice for what's happening in our community.
I appreciate that. Thank you for coming forward and saying that. Is there anyone that wishes to respond, or do you want to get back to Ms.
Do you want to respond,
Jensen?
Mark?
Yeah, I think you were here present for the work session here this evening, and there'll be further action on that this evening. The council will decide which direction they would like to go. Certainly be working to keep property owners informed as to what the council decides this evening on how they would like to move forward with treatment or not, or how they would like to address that matter. So.
Are you able to tell her where we're at right now, or has she been at some?
I think she's aware. I've had a number of conversations with her,
okay,
and provided updates as well. And so one of the things that we've recently done is tried to improve communication for those flushings that occur, and we're getting emails from individual property owners. We have that on their website now, or on their Facebook page with directions. The newsletter that's going out is also providing property owners how they can be accessed by our listserv. So when we send out an email blast, it can go to individual neighborhoods where we're doing flushing. also provide brief updates as to how the design is going with the water treatment plants or various updates that we might need to provide those neighborhoods.
And I'm thankful that you guys did set up the email blast, but one of my main concerns now is having heard from Ike that the testing comes from the wells right before it's put in the distribution centers, is what's happening from the water between the distribution centers to when it gets shipped all the way to our homes, and is there something in the pipelines or something that is collecting all the bad minerals that are being shipped right into our houses during a flushing? And so if there's some more research that can be done in that process as another alternative to the treatment plants you're researching.
Right, and we do have sample bottles on there ready. I've indicated that we don't want to stir that up intentionally, the mains, but when that does recur, we will be doing additional sampling and testing on that.
Great.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Next, I have Emily Antelik. Am I saying that right? And Craig Antelik. Saying that correctly?
Hi, I'm Emily Antolik. I live at 9275 Hunters Court in Hunters Crest Development. I'm here along with Crystal and to speak for the community that we're living in. Similar to what Crystal said, I don't know if I have a lot to add, but we've experienced the water issues, and I just think my personal story is, you know, you go to make your baby a bottle and your water's red or brown and it smells like rotten eggs, and you're thinking, should I just go to the store and buy bottled water? What do I do? You know, you're putting this into your little developing babies, and then you're giving them a bath, and they're asking why it stinks. And I mean, it's just, the heart of it is, it's gross. It smells bad. It sometimes doesn't taste great. And we're using it with our families. And, you know, like Crystal said, you think you're coming to a community where you can just drink the water and not worry about it, which we should be able to do. But now we're worrying about it and finding out that we're not the only ones worrying about it, and that's a bigger problem. So,
and we're just finding out about it a few months ago too, and we have our engineers hot on it, but I know that doesn't help you right now.
No, and I missed most of the working session earlier, but my husband was here, so he'll fill me in, and I'm just glad to have you guys working on it, and just here to represent the community.
Very nice. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Like I said, there are 3 for Red Oak. Is it okay? Let's see, 2 for Red Oak. I'm sorry. If we keep 3, yeah, 3. I'm sorry. These 2 look like they were together. We'll do those at the Red Oak party. Okay. Moving on then. Cause persons to be heard. We have no special presentations this evening. I'll move on then to the consent agenda, which consists of approving the January 21st special meeting minutes, the 21st regular meeting minutes, approving the Memorandum of Understanding with LELS Supervisor's contract, and to approve the Memorandum of Understanding with LELS Officer's contract. Council, what is your pleasure?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
I second it.
So moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? The motion will carry 5-0. As you'll see on the agenda, there is no public hearing this evening, and I know those of you in Red Oak realize it's not a public hearing, but we'll go down. We'll now start the business items. Item A, which is a resolution which approves plans and specs and authorizes the advertisement of bids for the SCADA system, the rehabilitation project, city project number 01-12.
Madam Mayor, I'll turn it over to City Engineer Mr. Erickson for presentation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. As previously authorized to prepare plans and specifications, we have completed that process. I'd like to introduce you to Paul Kading. Paul is going to give just a brief overview of the system prior to moving forward with the advertisement for bids, just to kind of give you a little summary of what is included in the design components of this and why we really, again, it's been a kind of a process to get to the point where we're at now, but really to summarize what we're proposing and what we're requesting to get authorization to advertise for bids. Again, Mr. Paul Kading.
Thank you. A SCADA system stands for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. It's an acronym, but really it means monitoring and control of the water system, including the elevated storage tanks, wells, and it will also monitor the lift stations and the flow metering stations in the city. This new system will serve as the backbone for the control system for the water plant as well when the water plant is designed. And it will tie all of these components into one monitoring system. It allows better control and monitoring and better report generation of what's going on in the water system primarily, including, as I said, the wells and the elevated storage tanks, but it also permits the city staff to monitor what's going on with lift stations, hopefully to respond quicker if there's a problem at a lift station. It also permits them to better monitor the operation of the lift station so that they can predict when a lift station, as an example, is starting to have trouble, such as a pump is wearing out or there's rags that are accumulating in the pump or blockages. So what this is that this is a new backbone for the overall city monitoring and control system for water and then monitoring for lift stations.
Council, do you have questions?
I have one question. Have you built in capacity for the on-site flocculation treatment? Because that runs from SCADA too. Will
Right.
that be included?
That will be in the future. So Paul, maybe you want to indicate how we're doing this. A lot of areas will be by radio. And so
Yes.
that would be included at the time. We also do have some fiber optic network that we're starting to develop, particularly along Kings Point Road to our additional wells and our existing lift station, which would also be able to be extended to that
Yeah.
on-site flocculation system.
Okay.
But
That was the
ultimately,
question.
it would be included in that.
Yes, we will include the ability to bring those components into the system when they're constructed.
Are there surrounding cities that have this application now?
Most do, as a matter of fact. The surrounding communities all do, either to a greater or lesser extent. And what happens is that as a community develops and the population base increases, there almost always becomes a time when you need to have the ability to monitor the system and to control the system. You do have a rudimentary system now that uses cellular telephone, but what we're gonna do is we're taking the next step to go to radio, where we will use radio around the city. And as new water mains and sewer mains are being installed in the city, we're putting a conduit in, because the ultimate, as the city develops, will be fiber optic. It will give you by far the greatest ability to transmit data, and it will be the most secure.
Two cities in particular, one I was thinking of is Maple Plain, the other one is Orono. Are those currently on the same type system?
I don't know about those two specific cities, but cities that I'm aware of include, for instance, Hopkins, Rosemount has one,
Waconia?
Mound
Mound
does,
does.
right?
Okay,
Mound does.
thank you.
Also, could you tell me what your estimate is for this project?
It is in the financial management plan. I don't
I know
have
it
that, but I
is,
think
but
it's
I
between
remember.
$500,000 and $600,000
Yes.
for the entire system. That's all 22 lift stations, all of our wells, and flow metering stations.
Yes,
Okay.
and elevated storage tanks,
Correct.
water
All right.
towers.
Thank you. You have questions? Council, anybody? Staff? If not, what is your pleasure? I'm gonna go ahead with this.
I make a motion to approve plans and specs and authorization for advertisement for bids for SCADA system rehab project, city project number 01-12.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve that resolution for approving plans and specs. Do we have a deadline that we think that those would be back? That bids would be in?
Well, I missed the question as well.
When will the bids be in?
Do you have a timeline for when the bids will be back?
We will set the advertisement. It would be a 3-week period, so it'll likely be sometime in March that we'll be second meeting in March that will likely be bringing back the results and recommendation for awarding a contract.
Okay, I just didn't see it in here, so I just wanted to know. All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? The motion will carry 5-0. So we'll look for that in March. Moving on, we're going to item 6B, which is to consider the redevelopment of Red Oak Golf Course located at 855 Red Oak Lane, R2A, low medium density residential. PID number 12-117-2411-0004. It has one part to it, which is an ordinance approving the zoning amendment. And I can't find the other part. We're having a little problem with I'm having a little problem, I should say. There are 3 parts to a resolution authorizing publication and also the preliminary plat. But we'll start first of all with David and the redevelopment of Red Oak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of council. Based on a lot of the written comments that were received throughout this proposal and the public hearing that was held at our meeting last week with the Planning Commission, I wanted to also give the council a brief history on what exactly is the comprehensive plan, what is the Metropolitan Council, how does that relate to this specific piece of property, how does this relate to the MUSA line, just to make sure that we can refamiliarize ourselves with the education on why this property is in the state that it is. And this actually dates back from a history standpoint 38 years back to 1976, when our state legislatures enacted what's called the Metropolitan Land Planning Act. What that did was require that local governments in the 7-county metro area develop land use plans for their communities. Under that law, it required that the establishments come up with comprehensive planning that meets the overall metropolitan system plans. And more specifically, what the Metropolitan Council does is produces system statements that the communities need to look to when they update their comprehensive plans. This is a map outlining that 7-county metro area. So each community within that has those metropolitan system statements that they look to when updating its comprehensive plan. What the Planning Act did was recognize that developments in one community may affect the regional capital improvements for sewer systems, transportation, airports, and regional parks. The specific factor that we're looking at with this proposal right now is sewer systems. Red Oak Golf Course is located in what's called the MUSA line. The Metropolitan Council operates and maintains 7 wastewater treatment plants in the Twin Cities 7-county metro area. As we've discussed earlier this evening, talking about water quality and discharging of that. So again, this property is located in that MUSA area. Therefore, properties in that area, when they develop, need to hook into that sewer system. We update our comprehensive plan once every 10 years, and the last time Minnetrista did that was in 2008. Through that process, we held over 12 neighborhood meetings and open houses that allowed residents and property owners to give input on our plan. And there was also a community survey conducted and comments received for the committees and council to consider as they update their comprehensive plan. Ultimately, it was approved in 2009. And as part of that, the property we're talking about this evening, Red Oak Golf Course, was guided to low-medium residential. In 2011, we came and rezoned the property R2A, low-medium residential, to bring our comp plan in conformance with our zoning map. That is a housekeeping item that you typically do after you update a comp plan. So this is one of those items we did to bring that up to date. The density that was approved ultimately in 2011 was a minimum unit number of 3.0 units per acre with a maximum of 3.5 units per acre. You heard me talk about the MUSA line earlier. That is the Metropolitan Urban Service Area. This is the City of Minnetrista's zoning map, the northeastern portion of our city. And the red dashed line here, somewhat hard to see, but the red dashed line is what we refer to as our MUSA area. So the properties that are within this, when they develop, when and if they develop, are required to hook into the sewer system and or water, city water, if it is available to that property, and or the ability to extend it to that property. So that is the MUSA line for the City of Minnetrista. And with the recent activity to our neighboring city and the city of Orono, I thought it was important to show the difference between the Lakeview Golf Course and Red Oak Golf Course. This is the city of Orono's map. The areas in pink illustrate what their MUSA area is. The big blue arrow is pointing to Lakeview Golf Course, and you'll notice that is white, meaning it is outside their MUSA area. Therefore, when it develops, it does not have to hook up to the sewer system. They will have individual septic systems as part of that development. Therefore, you get larger lot sizes. Not undifferent from outside our MUSA area. You can see all these parcels, and about 80% of our community is outside of the MUSA line in what we call the agricultural preserve district, where when they developed, they would build their own septic systems. This property again is located within that MUSA line, so just wanted to be clear on the differences between Orono's development and the Red Oak development and why they are different. So this is the proposed plan as presented by the applicant. You can see County Road 19 with an access point. They are proposing 2 stub streets that would serve, stub public streets that would serve the adjacent property owners that currently access their properties through a private drive located on Red Oak Golf Course. So they would serve the property to the north, and there's about approximately 4 properties to the west that this would serve. Also showing Grandview as a through street as it would connect to County Road 19. Looking at the site data, when we look at subtracting the gross acres of wetlands, there's additional right-of-way being taken for County Road 19. There will be some buffers associated with wetlands. We start out with 21.48 acres, brings us down to 19.65. Calculating the density, they're proposing a 3.11 units per acre, or 61 single-family lots as part of this proposed subdivision. Another area that was brought up through written comment and as well as the public hearing was the park dedication requirement for this development. And some of the written comments suggested that more land might be needed as part of this development. The city's Parks Commission, as well as city staff, has made the recommendation that the cash in lieu option be explored as part of this development. And the reason for that is there is an existing park adjacent to the property called Woods of Saga Hill Park. It's a 2.1 acre park. We define that as a mini park in our Parks, Trails, and Open Space Plan, which was adopted in 2004. In that plan, we defined a service area of a 1/4 mile radius serving a population of 500 people. A typical mini park per our plan would range in size from 1 to 3 acres, and again, this is a 2.1 acre park. Doing an analysis of the properties within a 1/4 mile, you have approximately 76 parcels. When we look at their proposed 61 units, it gets you to 137 parcels. Using the U.S. Census data's average household at 2.5 households, you get 342 people with the new development that are within 1/4 mile of this existing 2.1 acre mini park. Therefore, the reason why staff's recommendation was cash in lieu, as well as the Parks Commission recommendation to take the cash in lieu option for the park dedication requirement. Another area that was brought up was the money that would be given potentially wouldn't be reinvested in this park. And what we do with park dedication money is look to our park, trails, and open space plan at improvements for parks. Woods of Saga Hill has an improvement plan at looking out to 2020 at just under $60,000. So certainly that's where our park dedication money comes from, and what our Parks Commission looks at each year when they make a recommendation to the City Council for capital improvement items. And certainly if it's the council's desire to look at other future improvements in lieu of the cash being received, that's something that we could talk about with the Parks Commission for what would be 2015 capital improvements as part of the proposed development. The other area of concern would be the connection to Grandview Avenue. As I showed you at the proposed plan, it does show a through street. You saw in your staff, in the staff report in your packet, a memo from the fire chief as that being the preferred route. It's also the preferred route from an emergency medical access standpoint, our public safety department standpoint, and also during the concept and sketch plan review, council may recall that staff and council both preferred that option from a connectivity standpoint. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mark Erickson to talk a little bit more about connection and then overall traffic and stormwater runoff for the site.
Specifically with regard to traffic, the Hennepin County has really received a number of opportunities to review and comment on this plat. Early on in the process, the county had been provided a concept level similar to the city council that they had reviewed back in July of 2013. At that time, they provided some insights to the developer and the city as far as what requirements would likely be in place. The developer had since made those accommodations within their plans. They had further met with the county staff in November to discuss those anticipated requirements and address what they have identified within their preliminary plat. Hennepin County also has provided the preliminary plat on July 17th of 2014. Again, they provided comments to the city here. And again, just a summary of those comments were that the access location off of 19 does provide desirable site distance. They noted additional access provided on Grandview Avenue, so that was part of the submission to them that the development did have another access via Grandview Avenue. The developer was required to provide a southbound right turn lane accessing the site for traffic safety purposes. The applicant did include that in their submission, satisfying Hennepin County. And lastly, the developer must provide additional 27 feet of right-of-way. David referenced that earlier. The applicant also did meet that stipulation. That stipulation is in place primarily due to the fact of the additional turn lane, as well as the Hennepin County pedestrian and bicycle system plan. There's evidently future plans for pedestrian facilities in that corridor. Again, so that the developer has complied with the county comments. We did specifically ask regarding the intersection of 151 and 19. With these developments adjacent to that intersection, they're not seeing the really rising to the level where traffic control change is warranted currently with these proposed developments. Specifically with regard to drainage, you can see an aerial image with the boundaries of drainage identified there. Primarily one area draining to the north and one to the south. The area to the north, the proposed drainage area is approximately 27 acres, where the existing drainage area is 26.7. So it's a slight increase in area just based on the way the site is graded and laid out. The area to the south is actually about 3/10 less of an acre. So it is 5.1 acres currently drains to the south or towards the Minneapolis Avenue area. And the proposed drainage area is about 4.8 acres. So it is slightly reduced to compensate for the area to the north being slightly increased. Overall, the drainage area that is contributing to the Minneapolis area is 31.2 acres. And again, the proposed is slightly less at 30.9 because part of the site is actually going to the north now. So when we review this as well as Minnehaha Creek Watershed District, the applicant is required to meet a number of criteria, and the primary ones are with regard to rate control. They can't increase the rate of water leaving the site to what exists there today. And the applicant has a slide that they'll go through in detail indicating that they have met and in all cases exceeded those requirements that we hold them to. Similarly, with water quality, they are held to a standard where they cannot decrease the water quality leaving the site from what exists today. I think that concludes that slide, David.
Yes, thank you, Mark. Before we turn it over to the applicant for their presentation, I wanted to summarize last Monday night's meeting. Both the Parks Commission and Planning Commission met and made recommendations on the preliminary plat application before you. As I mentioned in my presentation, the Parks Commission had a 5-0 vote for the cash in lieu option for park dedication, again based on our parks, trails, and open space plan. The Planning Commission's recommendation, there was a 5-0 vote to approve the zoning to a PUD, one of the items that is on your agenda tonight, and then it was a 4-1 the preliminary plat application that's before you with the conditions that were outlined in that staff report. So with that, if it pleases the council, I'd like to turn it over to the applicant for their presentation.
I think that's good because then we can get some of our answers, before we start asking questions. Go ahead, please.
Madam Mayor and council members, I'm Pat Hiller. I'm with Source Land Capital. I'm here with a couple of my partners tonight, Jeff Myshak and Chase Peterson. Dave Nash is also here with us tonight. He's our engineer. He's with EBS, and so we'll be able to answer any questions you have, hopefully. I'm just going to go through what I want to go through tonight is just talk a little more about our preliminary plat application here and kind of what the thinking was that got us to the plat that we're submitting. Talk a little bit about the vision for the new homes going into the Red Oak development. Wanted to talk a little bit about a landscape plan. We're taking out a lot of trees in the site just because it's the only way to do it, and we're going to try and replant as many as is physically possible to fit on the site. And then also I want to talk a little bit about the neighborhood meeting we held in October and some of the concerns that have been raised then and since then, and how, if to the extent we can, we feel we're trying to help with some of those areas, and so I wanted to talk about that too. So the plat, as David has mentioned, we're at 61 lots, and what we've attempted to do here, the overarching guiding principle here that is to be between the 3.0 and the 3.5 density, and that sort of drives everything. And so as we looked at this particular site, it's kind of a funny shape, and it kind of immediately drives you to the south end of the site, which is that way, to sort of run a road down the middle and kind of double load the road with 2 rows of lots. Again, we have to get quite a few lots on a site that has got an odd shape to it. And so at the same time, we wanted to have an entrance off of County Road 19. The area up here, I should talk a little bit about this. This area right here is a low wetland area today. We're going to put holding ponds for the stormwater here and here. And this area right here goes uphill. So from right about that point to here, there's about a 40 to 50 foot rise in elevation. And so putting lots back here is relatively impractical because the road that services it would have, this cul-de-sac, if we extended it out to here, would have to go up and up and up. And then right in here where the pond is would be a giant retaining wall. And it becomes somewhat impractical. And so we left the road, there we go. We left the road stub right here, and then have a large lot here just because of the uphill rise. It isn't really practical to use it. So today, if you're not totally familiar with the site, there's a Red Oak Lane is right here. It's on the property, and the clubhouse is right about here for the golf course. The road goes to about here and turns into a gravel road and comes down here right along this northerly border, exits the site and kind of comes down and meanders through here, and it services the neighbors to the west. And so as we looked at this, we knew we needed to provide access to the neighbors to the west, and there's one driveway for a neighbor to the north that also utilizes Red Oak Lane, and those are access points we wanted to maintain. And so what we've chosen to do is put full right-of-way road stubs in here and here, so that it enables the property owners to the north and the west to develop someday, if they wish. They would have a full-size road stub, and then there would be water and sewer stubs right in this area that would be available for future use if desired. And so as we look through this area, we tried to do some bends in the road. We tried to make it look somewhat attractive and not just have houses going down a straight line. And one of the best ways to do that, we felt, was to move the current road, which is here, over about 150 feet to here, and then bring it in this way. And then we can run a row of houses along here and kind of better utilize the site, and that's what we've done. The entrance here, coming southbound from County Road 19, the county has asked us for a right turn lane in the right-of-way area here, which we've designed into the plan. So there's a right turn lane into the development and 2 lanes exiting. One is a left turn lane and one is a right turn lane exiting the development. We've shown the connection at the request of staff. We've shown the connection to Grandview right here. Part of our proposal is to add 2 feet of width to Grandview, and where we ended up at Planning Commission was that originally it was thought we'll add it to the north side, and we left it to where we're going to add 2 feet where it's most practical, and it isn't clear exactly where that 2 feet will come from yet. So with a 2-foot widening and then a total overlay all the way out here to 19, that's in the proposal we have now. I think that's about it in that chart. The vision for the homes are what the market what we feel the market opportunity is calling for, and that is single-family homes. I would guess virtually all of them would be 2-story. There might be a Rambler or 2 built, but probably not very many. Sizes ranging from 23 to 2,800 feet above grade. These are going to be 4-bedroom, 2.5 baths. You would expect younger families to be primarily purchasing the homes. We're going to propose in the architectural covenants a hardboard siding look on the front of the homes. The product names are either this LP Smart Side or James Hardy, and then some attractive stone and brick on the fronts. We see finished prices for the homes ranging from the low 400s to the low 500s. We will have an association which will manage the architectural covenants, and then also we would have the outlots that, in the neighborhood, the storm ponds and the wetland areas would be owned by the association through that mechanism. At this point, assuming we receive approval here, we would move on to final plat application as soon as practical, and we would see the site development work beginning as early as this summer with the concurrent water project, the water main extension project that we would need. This is a typical 2-story elevation. The house isn't this squatty. The picture's distorted, so it's a little more, little wider. But you're looking at just some nice architectural detail here, a little bit of stone, something that looks attractive, but yet keeps things into this price range. In terms of the total number of homes being built in here with 61 lots, very likely the builder that comes in here or builders that come in here are going to have a variety of 4 to 6, 7 plans, 2 to 3 to 4 elevations on each plan, and with multiple colors. There's plenty of options here to make the neighborhood look varied and interesting and not cookie cutter. And so with the street design and the different home plans that'll be used here, I think we can make it a very attractive neighborhood and something everybody can be proud of. This is a new slide from the Planning Commission meeting we had on Monday night because the topic of trees has come up. And one of the things that we're doing here, because the site, we're maintaining the trees around the perimeter here of the site that are there now. But when you grade the interior, there's a line that kind of goes around through here on one of our charts that I can show you. Inward of that line, you have to grade the site, and the trees just have to come out, and there's just not really any other way to do it. And so in our mitigation plan, we're taking out more than the 30% that is allowed by the city. I think we're up to 54%. So there's something like 2,100 inches and change that have to be mitigated, either in cash in lieu or in the form of trees. So what our desire to do here is to put as many trees as is physically and practically possible on the site and within the spirit of what we should be doing. And to the extent that it's not physically possible, we would do the cash in lieu on the remainder. And so what we're proposing here is in this chart, 393 inches of that 2,100 and change in the form of boulevard trees and yard trees in through here. And then along the perimeter, you can see these little darker dots right through here. We've sprinkled in some additional spruce trees along the perimeter. There were some comments at the previous Planning Commission meeting and a desire to have as much perimeter buffering for the adjoining neighbors as possible. In this area down here, there already are quite a few trees that are going to stay, and we're going to just basically add to them wherever practical through here. And also along County 19 and along in here, we've done some buffering with trees. And so as we get into, so our goal is to buffer the perimeter as much as possible. And so these tree locations are the locations where there aren't currently trees that we can fill in. And in general, we're looking at 2-inch trees in this plan. And if possible, we're going to try to source larger trees and get that 393 inches up to as much as we can physically do, by hopefully sourcing larger than 2-inch trees. Okay, on October 24th, we had a neighborhood meeting at the Red Oak Clubhouse. It was very well attended, and we heard a lot of comments, and we presented our plan that we had at the time. And I wanted to just go through kind of the 5 areas or so that we felt, as we looked at all the concerns, we grouped them into these 5 areas here. One was the adjoining property access. Initially, there was a desire to keep the current dirt road. As we talked through it, we feel our proposal that we're making with the road stubs is more desirable from a future planning standpoint. And it wasn't practical to maintain the current dirt road along the northerly edge and still make the density and the home sizes work. So we've incorporated the road stubs that I just described. It's also going to be essential that we maintain access to the sites during construction. And I think our strategy would be, just going to back up a little bit here. So as we're developing the site, we would probably keep the current road as is, and as we build through the rest of the site, we'll eventually get to the point where this road is built out, and then we can go ahead and have access run through this road, and then this will no longer be necessary. But we will work it out such that obviously everybody has access at every point along the way. We're not going to leave anybody stranded during construction. Stormwater management. I'm going to have Dave Nash come up here in just a second. But one of the concerns that we heard, is several concerns we heard, was the excessive amount of stormwater management that's to the west of the property that comes down to Minneapolis Avenue. And also there were some concerns about the stormwater leaving to the northeast and going under County Road 19. And there were some neighbors on the other side of County Road 19 that had some localized flooding problems. And so what we committed to do was to try to oversize the stormwater ponds on the site, and rather than just doing the minimum and keeping the runoff rates where they're at, we tried to oversize them, and we have, and we're spending more money to do that, quite a bit more money, and try to hold as much water on site so that to the extent that the site today is contributing to some flooding problems around it, we're going to make our portion better. I don't think it alleviates everything in the surrounding area because it's more than just this golf course site, but at least we're doing our part in trying to address that issue. Dave, why don't you come up to do the next site and show exactly what we're talking about here.
Good evening. I'm Dave Nash with EVS Engineering. As Pat said, I'm the civil engineer for the project, and I put together this exhibit. Included in our submittal packet for preliminary plat was a stormwater management plan that city engineers reviewed, and the Minnehaha Creek watershed will review as we proceed in this project. As Pat said, the requirement for this site and the requirement for any development site is post-development conditions have to meet the pre-development conditions for rate control, which is CFS, cubic feet per second. Then beyond that, we have to do some water treatment and filtration, infiltration based on the new NPDES rules. What this exhibit shows is based on our oversize of the ponds and the filtration and infiltration ponds that we're using on the site, we are reducing the flow rates on the site beyond what was required. For example, there's 2 areas. I have an area that goes out to the north, and the table shows on a 1-year storm event, the pre-development runoff from that site is 2.2 CFS, and post-runoff is 0 CFS, meaning on a smaller storm event, our filtration pond should be able to take all the water and won't be any water running off. Same goes on 10-year storm event. The pre-development rate is 4.7 CFS. We reduce it with our ponding and filtration to 0.9 CFS. And finally, on a 100-year storm event, which is what majority of ponds are designed for, the pre-runoff is 5.8 CFS, and our post-runoff is 2.1 CFS. So we're cutting it more than half of what we're required to by adding the additional ponding on the site. Same way going down to the property or our drainage area going to the south leading to Minneapolis Avenue. I'll quick go through 1-year event. The pre is 2.5 CFS. Our post is 2.3 CFS. Truthfully, in this area, we're not increasing the ponding. We're limited in the area, so we we're matching close to what's the requirement. Pre is, on a 10-year pre-event is 10.6 CFS, and we're at 8.1 CFS after development. And finally, on a 100-year storm event, 20.9 CFS before development, and at post, we're at 14.0 CFS. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Pat.
Can I ask a quick question on that?
Yes.
We went to a water seminar last Thursday, and recharge is a huge issue, and we think there'll be some regulations coming down the road. Is there a way that you could use that stormwater pond to irrigate these 61 parcels?
It's not a requirement. It would be a significant added cost, and I don't think these ponds would be large enough. What happens anytime you try to use a pond to recharge it, you end up putting in another well, because when do you water? When it's dry.
Yeah.
So there's no water in the ponds. You need a well to recharge the ponds itself. So,
But it's not treated.
pardon?
But it will be treated water.
Correct.
That's what
So-
we're trying to get away from, is using drinking water to irrigate people's properties.
Understood.
So I just wondered if you'd considered it.
Okay. Let's keep going here. Housing density. Now this is something that has been brought up, and the density is driven by the current zoning for the site of 3.0 to 3.5. We're within that range, on the low end of that range. And so the best we can do is what I had indicated earlier, which is to provide as interesting a site layout as we can and as much home variety as we can. And we feel we've done that, and we're within the range on this. County Road 19 impacts of traffic. There were some concerns about the additional traffic associated with 61 homes and what it would do to the traffic there on 19. And so, as we've discussed already, Hennepin County supports the only change Hennepin County is asking for is the southbound right turn lane. The traffic that goes north to the four-way stop at County Road 151 and 19, they're not asking, to the best of our knowledge, for a traffic light or anything there. The traffic is felt to be well within the capability of County 19, even with this additional traffic. And so, just for reference points for everybody, the current golf course seasonal peak traffic is about 110 trips a day. It's down from about 160 trips in previous years, which is part of why they had to sell. And so, although there will be more traffic than the golf course traffic with 61 homes, it's not all incremental. Some of it was already there and is being, the golf course traffic is being replaced with the home traffic of about 305 trips per day. And then the Grandview connection to the south, earlier plans, we had shown a cul-de-sac there with a breakaway barrier in order to not put the traffic onto Grandview. And at the crest of staff, our actual plat submission is what you've seen. We're actually making that hard connection and then improving Grandview by a couple of feet. And so we had been willing to go either direction. We understand that there's pros and cons of each. And so, but at this point, it sounds like we're going to stay with the connection unless something changes. And so whatever the council decides is we would be willing to abide by. And so that's where that stands. And I think that's all I've got here. We'll go back and put this chart back up if there's any questions. Any questions for me now, or would you like to?
I have just one, I think. I was writing some things down when you were talking, and maybe I'll wait until the end, but maybe that's what I'll do. I'm anxious to hear from our residents to what they said. There were many of them here at Planning Commission, and although we've all agreed that we won't do it the same way as we did there, since that was a public hearing, but I do want to hear from them and see how it's coming. So why don't we do that first, and then maybe you'll have answers for them as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions before I start with the people? Or?
Until later.
Okay. Jody Youngquist. Jody and I are pen pals.
A couple of you are my pen pals.
All of us, yeah.
Madam Mayor, council members and city staff, I'm Jody Youngquist, and I live at 950 Red Oak Lane. So my house is right behind this development, and what will continue to be Red Oak Lane, not Grant Avenue, right, guys?
Yes.
I have to keep checking on that one. First, I just want to thank all of you, all of the staff and the council members who've taken the time to answer all of our questions over the past week. It's been greatly appreciated. It's my first time going through this process, and I've been very grateful for everything. Oh, thanks. Secondly, I want to thank you for letting us have a little moment to speak today. We've done our best to consolidate the thoughts of our neighbors and be respectful of your time. I've lived in Minnetrista for 16 years. I'm the newest neighbor on Red Oak Lane. Most of my neighbors have been there for 25, so I'm feeling a huge impact on this. I can't imagine how they're feeling. My children take the bus to school from the Covenant Church parking lot, at that bus stop, and I drive downtown to work every day, so I'm well aware of traffic concerns at both the Grandview Avenue exit and the Red Oak. Red Oak Lane and the neighborhoods surrounding the golf course will be severely impacted by this development, and what we're asking is that the city and developers take our concerns seriously and work with us to find solutions that allow a beautiful development, as well as maintain the rural character of the neighborhood. And I think it's really important that we take a look at the mission statement for Minnetrista and keep that in mind as we're doing this. The city of Minnetrista will deliver quality services in a cost-effective and innovative manner and provide opportunities for a high quality of life while protecting natural resources and maintaining a rural character. And I have real concerns about the maintaining a rural character with what we're looking at here. Green space is one of our big concerns, and we know we can't change the density. The horse has left the barn. We beat it to death a week ago. We don't need to do that again. But I think the fact that we're looking at a PUD is all of a sudden really changing your lot sizes. The Planning Commission and the City Council have pointed out that the Met Council is making us go with a 3 to 3.5 density, and that you really can't do anything about that. You helped get the density down from 5 houses per acre when the citizens came and talked to you several years ago, and we were able to do that. But what the reality is right now is that we're closer to 5 houses per acre, as most of the lots are that size. It would be used in a 5 house per acre density. And I took this map, and it was pointed out to me at the beginning of the meeting that this is the map of the footings, so the houses don't necessarily take up that much space on each lot, but they potentially could. And I wanted to
ask you where you got that map? Is it your
I
map
got
or
it
is
from your city packet.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, and it's the one, I think Pat just showed the same map. Mine just looks different because I spent a lot of time coloring it. I know, it looks like a 3rd grader did it, but I'm not an art major. And so what we wanted to show with this is that 44 of the homes, which is 72% of these homes, are on 0.25 acre lots or less. 33% of the homes are on lots that are 0.2 acres or less. If you have a density of 3 homes per acre, that's 0.33 acres per home. So basically 72% of your homes are looking like they're part of a 5 house per acre density, which really means that we're not any better off than we would have been if we just would have stuck with the 5 houses per acre density that the Met Council gave us originally. And I think there's some ways we can change this or make it open up space, and I'll be bringing that up in a minute. And I also do understand too with the PUD, part of that is that you try to squish them all together so that you can open up spaces elsewhere. The large lot on the hill is 0.98 acres. So basically what that one is doing, that giant piece of land, that the whole back half of it is pretty much unbuildable and unusable. Yeah, is what's driving your other houses down so far. And I think it's important to note too that there's several houses on here that are on 0.16 of an acre. But you're almost down to a 1/10 of an acre lot. That's really, really small. And I'm hoping that there's a way that we can rejigger how this is laid out. I'm going to talk again about donating some park space and some other things, but that's where I'm going with this and the purpose of the map. It sounds like the 58 houses would meet the density requirement of the Met Council. I was seeing things that would said like 58 to 65, and I'm wondering if there's anything there that the City Council can push for and ask the developer to look at this and be able to reduce the number of houses to 58 and still meet our density requirement. It also looks very possible to get down to 51 houses if we can get the park land donation or create an association park, and I can talk about that a little bit more in a minute too, but I want to get it out there. Our suggestions aren't meant to be whiny or irritating for you. We genuinely care about our community, and we want it to be beautiful. I'm going to have to drive through this development every day on my way home, and I want to feel good about it. I don't want it to be a stinging reminder. The staff recommendations that I saw also stated that the key performance indicator that this development is going to meet is the to increase the residential tax base. So we obviously know more houses mean more taxes, but it's also important for you to represent the community and uphold Minnetrista's mission statement. So obviously 61 houses make you more money, but if we could do 58, I think we're going with our mission and why we're here. We know that there's other developments in Minnetrista with similar density, like Hunter's Crest. I think the big difference there is that the Hunter's Crest development is out in the middle of the country without a lot of existing houses around it. It's not requiring residents to drive through a neighborhood to get to their homes. It's much larger, so I know that there's more money that could be put toward it, but it has beautiful parks. It has sidewalks. The lots look bigger than this looks, and I might be wrong there, but from what we could tell. The Red Oak development is being crammed into a golf course that's currently surrounded by homes that were built with the view of the golf course in mind. So all of the homes around the golf course have their views of the golf course. So we're not doing much to get this to fit into the rural nature. And again, I understand we have some density that we can't work with, but I think there's some density that we should work with. I feel in all fairness, the city should try to give back the green space to this development wherever we can. Money taken for the development, taken from the development for park dedication fees and trees should be put back into the development versus being collected and given to another community that has not been affected by this. And as stated, the developer needs to move 54% of the trees, and from what I read, and the fact that there's no room for more trees to be put back in here, the city will be receiving $218,600 in fees for the trees. We'd like to see the city support expanding replanting boundaries for environmental enhancement on the private property surrounding the development, and to further define the privacy perimeter and help maintain at least a portion of the views that the current residents have. And I was really glad to see what these guys are doing with the trees in these lots, but we have a lot of money left over for trees, and it would be nice to be able to go outside the boundary, which I believe you guys have the ability to change, to help improve the view of the houses that surround it. And if the city is collecting this much money, we'd be curious to know, where does that go?
It goes to the park dedication fund. It can be used for nothing but park.
Okay, no, the tree fees, sorry.
Oh, the trees, I'm sorry, you're at the trees.
That's
Yes,
$218,000.
that's a very good question. I mean, and you can have a say-so in that to some degree as well.
We have a say-so, or?
Well, if you want to form your group and say, you know, we get X amount of dollars, and we have a tree inventory, right, Matt? Before we put, am I way off base here?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, we have what she's referring to is our tree enhancement fund.
Right.
So at $100 per caliper inch would be required per what they're not meeting in our ordinance. We do have a policy set for that tree enhancement fund. The main goal of the fund is to replace trees within the community. That could be done in various ways. One thing she suggested was some of that money be allocated to the adjacent property owners. That certainly is acceptable per the policy. Another would be replacing boulevard trees throughout this community, replacing park trees or planting more trees in the park. The main goal of it is trees, but it also allows for environmental enhancements too, which can further be defined and is up to the discretion of council per the policy where it goes. But what she is suggesting would be allowable use of that tree preservation fund if it so chooses the council.
I think you put it better than I did.
Thank you.
Sorry.
And we respectfully ask that you give as much of that back to this community as you can to try to help keep it pretty. Another question that we had regarding the trees that are going to be on the perimeter, and I don't know if this is for now or for later, but will that buffer of trees be protected by the association to prevent future property owners from taking them down? Or is the association, can an association have that in there that you can't just go and cut down the trees in your backyard?
Maybe Ron could respond, or Dave, you've probably been working on this for so long.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, certainly something could be written into the covenants of the homeowners association, so it would be up to the homeowners association to regulate. The only way the city could have protection over something like that is with a conservation easements. We have seen those in other developments where portions that were naturally significant were put in conservation easements, so there's another layer of enforcement that gets recorded to the title and deeds of the property so that future landowners know that that area is protected and they can't do anything with that.
Thank you. In regards to the Minnetrista Parks and the park dedication fee, we were very confused and actually stunned that the Minnetrista Parks and Planning Commissions would recommend the developer pay the $180,000 park dedication fee versus adding much needed green space to this development. And I think it sounds like the developer could donate up to 12% of the land or 2.34 acres if they desired. And the existing park that was mentioned, although the numbers look really good on paper, the existing park is large enough to serve 500 children, but that basis is based on the size of the park. It's not a park with green space to go play a game of soccer or play a game of baseball. It's a walking park. So yeah, you've got a park, but it's a trail through the woods that I think the median age of people that use it, I might even be young compared to most of the people that use that park. It's used a lot, it's a great walking trail, but it is a walking park, pretty much designed for older people that are gonna be out walking. Kids could run around and play in there, but the equipment is very small, there's not a lot of equipment. It's for a very tight age range of children, and it's really not giving you a place for them to play if they want to go out and play a game like you would assume you would do at the park. There's no swings.
Which might be a great place to take a few of those dollars and stick in there.
Yeah, and that's what we would ask. We would love to see you be able to take that money and put it back into the park. Ideally, we'd really like to see land donated so that there's more green space. And you have the ability to donate the land. So if you donate that land, that comes out of your density, and you could bring your houses down to 51 homes and give bigger lots.
I guess I'd have to ask somebody about that, because that seems kind of weird. I know you do your density by taking out the park, but can a person just donate park to get rid of density?
Well, it wouldn't, maybe it doesn't get rid of density. You're still at three density.
So how does that make it less dense for you?
It gives you more green space up at the top.
Madam Mayor, members of council, if I may, I'll go back to my slide and to talk about density here again. How that is calculated not only by our comprehensive plan, but also the Metropolitan Council sets a definition. I'm sorry, I got to get to my slide here. So net residential acreage is calculating by subtracting gross acres wetlands, water bodies, public parks. So to answer her question right now, if you dedicated, if you, the city council, decided that you needed more park space to have, that gets subtracted from that calculation. Arterial streets and natural resources as mapped and protected by ordinance. One thing I just would like to comment on for clarification to Jody's slide is the streets within this development are not included as part of your calculation. Mm-hmm. So that land does count towards what we're calculating here. So the lot sizes isn't necessarily an apples to apples comparison to what here we are required by law to use for a determination on what the density is with any residential development that comes in. So as pointed out, there's 0.65 acres of wetlands, 0.41 acres of additional county right-of-way, and then 0.86 acres of what would be buffers and easements around those wetlands that are being taken out of the calculation, which gets us to 19.65. And when you have 61 units, that gives you the 3.11 units per acre.
But I guess back to my point, they have to be willing to donate, correct? The owners, and we don't own those two pieces of land.
Madam Mayor, Council, it's up to the council to decide whether you wish to require dedication of land or cash in lieu. That's an analysis that you go through with every subdivision. The Park Commission and the Planning Commission, in looking at the big picture, has said we would rather have cash than land in this location, but ultimately it's a decision that the council has to make.
And watching those two commissions do that, and then listening to people saying that they don't really want the two things in there. They'd rather well, this was a planning commission. Half of people wanted a cul-de-sac, half the people didn't want them. What are we gonna do with the two? So I think that needs some more discussion before we just lop off 2 lots and say, let's do that.
Well, that's part of the discussion you're gonna have with regard to the plat. Because the plat is as it's currently designed, and the proposal is no land dedication. So that land does not get subtracted, and thus the density calculations, and again, the recommendation of both the Planning Commission and Park Commission is that money is more important in this case than the land. But ultimately, that's a decision that you have to make with this subdivision, like every other subdivision that comes before you.
But the neighbors are saying, why don't you grab 2 pieces of
Sure.
land, you know?
Sure,
so
that's
there's
what-
a difference, and so just wanted to make sure we don't go the wrong route. Sorry.
And I may have misused the word density. I think part of it is if you get the number of houses down, you're gonna reduce the number of traffic, the number of people, a lot of those things.
I hear that.
It becomes a nicer place. It doesn't feel as crowded. And the other thing we'd ask you to look at too, is there a way to work green space into the development and then just create an HOA park within the development? You know, we had some talk about that sliding hill. You know, does that become part of an association that, you know, that they need to manage? And that could get that big chunk of land off of that one lot, which would allow us to loosen some things up.
Isn't there a house on that lot, though? I mean, on our proposed,
There is.
and so you're saying aside from that, you
If
would
their
still like
property
to keep
line
the
ends at a
hill?
certain spot, that makes sense, and then you can, you know, dedicate that land, but have it part of the association, so they have to pay to mow it. I mean, who's maintaining that wetland area and mowing around that?
HOA.
Yeah, so couldn't this become part of the HOA? It's not really buildable land. And to be honest, as a homeowner, I don't think I'd have a lot of fun mowing that hill.
Well,
So I'm just looking for ways
I'm
to.
getting you off, so I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No, that's okay.
I just was kind of curious as how that worked. So.
All right. The next thing I want to just mention is sidewalks. As we talked about, there's very limited green space, and the plan currently doesn't have sidewalks. The only open space in the development is the woods of Saga Hill Park, which we were just talking about, and it's on the far end, and the only way the children are going to get to that is walking through the street. So if you look where the park is, I'm not going to be very good with this. Your park's here, and you're going to have all of these children all the way here. The only way they're going to get there is to walk right up the street. The streets are 28 feet wide, I believe, which is within bounds. And you picture cars parked on either side of the street, and kids walking up to the park, and me walking my dog, and all of a sudden you have a pretty crowded street with not a lot of places for people to go. And as someone who's driving through there, I have really huge concerns about that. The design does include a boulevard of trees, and it came up during the planning meeting that it would be difficult to have space for the trees and a sidewalk due to the size of the lots and the space available. We're asking that the city look for a way to have sidewalks along at least one side of the road, as well as maintain the boulevard of trees, because they are something we'd love to see. The developer documents presented on June 21st, 2013 included sidewalks on one side of the street, I believe. And as we were looking at mentioning, the Hunter's Crest development was able to make sidewalks work. So we'd like to see you look into that a little bit more. I think traffic has been discussed a lot, and I'm hoping that there was a full traffic study and they really considered how many cars are going in and out. The golf course traffic was very seasonal. It wasn't on rainy and snowy days when you slide out of the road or the driveway into the road. And I think that the golf course traffic also was very much during the day. The amount of traffic we'll have at peak times will be very heavy through that development. Everybody's going to work and school at the same time. So I will leave that to you guys to decide how you want to push.
I think we're aware of that. I think we're running down in time too.
Okay.
If I have 2 more people to speak,
Yep.
who want to speak this on, I think we need to move on.
Yeah,
I
I'm on my
appreciate
last one,
everything
actually.
you've done.
The last thing is just mentioning the cul-de-sac. The city engineer made the point at the planning meeting regarding the desire for through-street traffic for emergency vehicles and city plows. I think the emergency vehicle concern could be taken care of with an emergency breakaway entrance. And I think it's really important for you to consider the safety next to the park. It's 40 feet from the development. A through street's going to mean more traffic by the park, which is the only place the children have to play, and they're walking up the street to get to the park. And current users of the park, for the walking park, take that trail up from Minneapolis Avenue and cross Grand Avenue, or Grandview Avenue to get there. And in closing, I just want to say I feel like the City Council does have a choice when it comes to maintaining the rural character of this development. I've pointed out several ways you can reduce the number of homes, add green space, and make it a safe place to live, while still meeting the Met Council requirements. We fought hard to get the density down, and the fact that the lots are so small and the houses are so close together, it no longer feels like the Met Council is forcing us to cram all this stuff in. We're making some choices here on our own to not have green space and to have a cramped environment. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Jody. I appreciate your presentation a great deal. The second person is Sue Harrison, I believe.
Yes. Hi, I'm Sue Harrison. I live at 4935 Grandview, the end of the road. Madam Mayor, council members, and staff. Not to be disrespectful, but I doubt the Planning Commission, City Engineer, nor staff have any understanding of the safety issues that will result from making Grandview a through street. I'd like to give you a little view of my world on Grandview. As I said, we're the last house at the end of the street. If I'm driving and another car approaches, one of us has to pull over either into the gravel or the snow because this is a very narrow road, and has to stop to wait for the other one to go past. If there's a garbage truck, delivery truck, any kind of truck, there's no way to get out until they're done. If I should mistakenly leave my property and arrive when garbage is being picked up, I just crawl down the street waiting till they finish every stop, and then I can exit or enter. Currently, there are just 2 houses on this road with young children. If I should happen to drive in or out when their kids walking, I have to slow to a stop until they realize I'm there, and then they will move into the grass or the snowbank. But it's a narrow road. I can't imagine how this is going to work with potentially 120 or more new kids. We've said these are houses that will have young kids. It could be more than 120 kids. As a parent, this makes me cringe. The kids will either be walking to a bus stop up on 19, and half the year, that's in the dark in the morning. They might be walking to the park. They might just be playing in the street. As we saw, their yards are very small. Bus routes will undoubtedly be added through the neighborhood on this through street, going through this new neighborhood and up 19. So that would make the road more impassable and congested. The other part of this problem with this road is you don't see the road. It's up at the corner at 19, but it's downhill all the way from 19 past my house to the start of the golf course. So when I'm driving down the road, because I know I'm stopping at the end of the road at my driveway, I have my brake on the entire time. People passing, if this goes through into a neighborhood, probably won't be bothered to brake the whole time. They'll just go flying down this road, past the park, past the trail entrance. And with these kids, I just don't see how this is going to work. I predict these speeding drivers are going to be flying to their houses. It's narrow. The road could be filled with kids on bikes, skateboards, walking in the road, trying to get to the park. It sounds like a recipe for an accident to me. Moving to address the entrance of Grandview onto Highway 19, I believe about 20 neighbors were here last week addressing the safety issues there in front of the Planning Commission. Adding a bus to this, coming through this neighborhood, I can't imagine how a bus is going to get out of Grandview onto 19. I've been nearly hit, and I'm a really patient, slow driver. You have to be on this street. But I've been nearly hit at this corner many times because 19 curves around from the south. There's a sharp curve, and you can't if cars are going fast enough, you don't have time to get into the intersection and into the road before they come flying around this corner. And the speed limit there is 35 miles an hour, and I think it currently increases as you get past Grandview. So the cars who use the road frequently know that, and they start to accelerate as they come past around this corner and past this area. So we know that if people read the speed limit as 35, they're often going close to 45 because they think they can go 10 miles an hour over without getting pulled over. And it's a very busy corner. It's also has 3 roads connecting at that corner. Tonkawood, Minneapolis Avenue, and Grandview are all within maybe 150 feet of each other. I'm sorry, I wish I had a slide. Maybe that shows it, I'm not sure. They're yes, you can see Grandview, Tonkawood, and Minneapolis Avenue are all right there. And in addition, and they all have blind entrances because of this curve on 19. In addition, you have the church with the church parking lot right there. You have the bus stop in that parking lot across the street from the church. You have a crosswalk right there, and people's driveways. There's just way too much happening at that corner already. The Grandview entrance to 19 and the Minneapolis Avenue entrance to 19 are both uphill. So at this time of year, we nearly didn't get here because you have to have a running start to get through the snow or a little ice at the corner. And by the time you run up into a little bit over the intersection and then stop so you can see either way, you then are kind of stuck because your back wheels are in the ice that might still be there. It's, I'm sorry to go on and on, but it's not a safe situation. Cars
Can
on.
I just ask a question?
Yeah.
We have an engineer and we have our police chief here, if they could just respond to what
Yeah, the
you're
police
saying.
they have a speed trap in that parking lot half the time.
Good for you.
Ask him, it's true.
Yeah. Usually we find that very helpful, but.
I'm happy that it's there because
Yeah.
it might slow people down.
I can certainly go first. From my perspective, I think it goes back to a number of things that council has dealt with here in the recent past with even reconstruction projects. I'll go through a number of different examples that from our perspective, that why it's important. Recently, we're reconstructing Kings Point Road. It's a one-way in, one-way out currently. It's functioned over the years just fine. I know there's been issues with access at times with that, but certainly while we're reconstructing the roadway, which ultimately all these roads will be reconstructed at some point, with one-way access in and one-way access out, I know not only myself, but a number of the council members have had repeated calls and complaints with the reconstruction of Kings Point Road. It's posed many challenges, much additional cost to reconstruct the roadway because of those, building temporary roads around construction zones, things like that to get access in and out. I mean, the planning one involved, and Mr. Falls can probably attest to this, at some points we talked about having police equipment stationed north of some of our deep area of excavation, and fire trucks stationed on the north side of that in case there was an event. There's absolutely no way to get in or out. And so we talked about property owners having to park out on the roadway, but still not having access for emergency vehicles was a concern. We've had recent storms on just recently, even last year, with inability to access Minneapolis Avenue with trees and things like that. We have lift stations, not only on Minneapolis Avenue, but this development will also have lift stations where if there's an issue, we need to get to the site and get a generator on that to make sure that they're functioning and not filling up with sewage and backing into people's homes and things of that nature. I mean, whether it's a new development or an old development, there may be a water main break, there may be something that occurs where it requires an alternate access in and out. So from a planning perspective, those are typically things that we look at. Are there areas in the community that have cul-de-sacs with one way in and out? Yes, there are. Right directly to South Minneapolis Avenue is an example of that. And frankly, that's an example why we choose not to do that nowadays. And so those are standard planning tools where if you have the ability to do that, you typically do provide multiple accesses.
And what about
Paul,
that breakaway idea?
Pardon me.
And what about
Good question, yeah.
The other item, I didn't speak with the police chief. I know David, or the fire chief, but I know their preference was also to have multiple accesses. I'm not sure, Paul, if you want to comment from your perspective as well.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Erickson. Madam Mayor, members of the council and audience, certainly from a public safety standpoint, our concern is first and foremost access. And that's important for a number of reasons. The storms of last summer were a prime example up in that particular area with Minneapolis Avenue. We had a number of large trees down where we could not get any equipment north or west into our portion of that affected area, and that created some very large issues for us. So access in a development with 50 or 60 homes is more difficult than you may think. And so really what we're looking for is when we get those emergency calls, not necessarily the alarms or the minor stuff, but the medical emergencies and the storm damage type emergencies where someone may be in a house that's got damage or so on and so forth. We really want to be able to get there as quickly as we can. And cutting, so let me back up just a little bit. In order to do that, multiple access points is critical in that we want the quickest route, not having to wind all the way through a particular neighborhood to get to the back of it because there's only one access point. And so while I think Mr. Erickson said we probably do have a number of neighborhoods in our city that were designed like that years ago, moving forward through the planning process, we certainly look very closely at access. And while I understand a lot of the concerns that you have voiced and others have
have voiced as well. And while we hear those concerns, I think we have a number of means to address those concerns, certainly moving forward. And there's no doubt that the traffic on Grandview Avenue will probably increase. With that said, I think the access points are positioned in a manner that it's certainly not going to direct all that traffic down that path. And I thought I also heard the developer mention that they were looking at actually expanding or widening Grandview Avenue, which I think would be
Because it's too narrow for 2 cars at this point, but
correct.
2 feet isn't going to change it that much.
Correct, and I think it would certainly help, and I guess, like I say, from public safety standpoint, access is really one of our largest concerns.
So I didn't hear the breakaway barrier addressed. That does give you access, does it not?
And I would be happy to comment on that, and I'm glad you brought that up. I know we have at least one of those in our city, maybe a couple other areas, and while in a very large emergency, can we push our way through there? The answer is yes, we can do that. The fact of the matter is, though, it really isn't done often because it does cause damage to the vehicles, and there's no guarantee. In the wintertime, you can't plow. You can't remove all of the snow short of going out there with a shovel and a snowblower, so it's really not practical. So in the wintertime, we cannot get through there because the snow basically gets plowed up to both sides, and they do remove it the best they can, but short of removing all of that. Yeah, short of removing all of it, ice build up and so on and so forth.
I didn't mean to.
So,
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted.
Okay,
to
I know you.
staff
I appreciate it.
Madam Mayor, if I may, just
I'm sorry, go
one other thing to illustrate. Hennepin County's memo also outlines that given their traffic studies, which they do every year on the county roads out there, given the layout and the access point, as pointed out in their memo, they feel that a majority of the traffic is going to utilize the northern site. I guess just to address all of the concerns that she brought up about safety, which obviously is an issue and a factor, by having 2 access points, it now gives people on Grandview a secondary access point, which is in turn more safe than what the Grandview is. So there is another option available to what is currently an unsafe condition. So again, as pointed out in the Hennepin County memo, they feel, giving their studies, that most people will go north, and it will also give other residents that option as well. So I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Okay, I'm almost done. I still don't agree, and I feel it's not safe to add more traffic to that corner in this street. You brought up the unknown number of cars that will use it. The estimate I heard is 300 extra car trips a day, which I would argue is low, seeing as all those young families are going to have lots of 2-point-something kids average, young kids have to be driven in and out everywhere to ballet and hockey and whatever else. That would be the high time in my life when I was driving endlessly, people in and out. But we won't know how many people choose that route until they actually live there, how many will choose Grandview. But I don't think when you've figured those calculations, you've also added in delivery trucks, garbage trucks, recycling trucks, mail delivery trucks, people towing boats, buses, lawn services, snow plows, and whatever else comes with 60 additional houses. And even with the number of houses at that end of the road, if they use this road, use Grandview, I think it's too much traffic for that road. I seem to remember the engineer saying we wouldn't allow construction traffic down the road because it would deteriorate the road too quickly, but how are you going to keep all these other people with their delivery trucks and school buses and everything else from deteriorating the road quickly? I think there are valid points in creating through streets in some instances, which you brought up some, but I don't believe this is one of them. The city staff and council, the city staff and planning commission said they didn't favor cul-de-sacs, but as you brought up, the reality in this neighborhood is that much of Minnetrista and Orono is full of cul-de-sacs. Some of you live on cul-de-sacs. Would you want to change yours? You might also consider that the 55-unit Lakeview development is slated to have only 1 access point, and that's just down the road. We're making you aware of these safety issues so that you'll make a balanced decision with your eyes wide open to the problems that can be associated with making Grandview a through road. Especially, I would hope you'd consider the safety issues. So please, I implore you to do the responsible thing and incorporate that cul-de-sac with the breakaway barrier, and I'll shovel my little heart out. And I believe, and I realize it was originally approved and passed by the Planning Commission last summer. So please go back to that and represent the people who voted you into office and don't make it a through street. Any questions of me?
Well, and as you know, at the planning commission, there were divided opinions about that very thing, so everyone's entitled to that, so we'll.
I think
cross
everybody
back and
in the
forth.
neighborhood who came up, though, was in favor of it not being a through street. I don't remember anybody of the residents who.
All right, we can let that fly.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That's all I have
Don't worry, I
on my-
won't take up too much.
I don't think I have you on here, do I? No?
It's supposed to be on there.
Okay, go ahead. You
All right.
have about 3 minutes left.
All right.
We've spent a lot, we've
First,
got
I
a
wanna-
lot to go.
I want to thank the council for only jacking the levy up 2.1%, first time in 4 years. So, as a taxpayer, I appreciate it.
We didn't.
Oh, didn't
We
it go
did
up
not,
2.1?
no, we didn't.
Oh, I read that in the, on your
No.
website. Well, you guys better-
Inaccurate.
You guys better change that
Yeah.
then.
It's flat levy.
No levy?
I never raised taxes in
All
the
right,
city.
well, good for you guys. I just want to echo one concern that was brought up regarding density, just so that we're all real clear on this about, what's really going on here with density. And the bottom line is, we could have 51 houses here instead of 61. Isn't that the case?
No.
Bottom line? No? That's not the case?
That's not the case. The least I've seen is 58. Now you,
Well, no, it says in the city code that when a developer is obligated to donate 12% of the land to the city, and it's up to the city's discretion whether they want to take the land or take the cash, is that right? So in this case, if the city said, we want the land instead of the money, then we're talking about 7 houses on that 2.34 acres, right? Or am I incorrect? Am I wrong? I don't know. You guys tell me.
David, you're up.
And this was the question you were talking about before me.
We've actually been over and over and over.
We've already
over
answered
so-
this, I thought.
Well, is that, am I?
We have answered it, but I thought.
Well, what's the answer then? I guess
The
I
answer
missed
was
it.
61, that's where we're at. And 58 was the absolute least. And something that I read, I'm not the be-all, end-all of this, so go ahead, Ron.
Well, Madam Mayor, as we said a minute ago, it is your discretion to take land instead of cash if you want to do that. I don't know how much you would take in land instead of cash, and I don't know what the math is. If the decision is, as the Planning Commission and the Council and the Park Commission recommended, and you take cash, then the answer is the 19 point whatever acres, because David has gone through what may be subtracted, nothing else may be subtracted, and you do the math on that, and that gives you somewhere between 58 to, I don't know, 70-some units. That's the range in which the current scenario can work.
But you can take, if you take the land out, as you pointed out, and it becomes public park place, then that comes out of the equation. Isn't that correct?
I think we have been over this before. I argued it very poorly, but if somebody else wants to take a crack at it, I mean,
Isn't that the case?
I think we just said this about 4 times.
Well, then tell us straight out so that we understand.
I don't know what the
Well,
number is.
I'll tell you what it is,
but-
because it's in the city code. It's pretty straightforward if you want to, and I assume you guys are familiar with the city code. Mike, what do you think? You run the city. I mean, can the developer donate 2.33 acres, as it says publicly in the paper the other day, or not?
well, the paper doesn't always have everything wrong.
Okay, well, then
Apologies to
correct
Teresa,
them.
but
Correct them. I don't know where they got the information.
I don't either.
But I know I read in the city code that that is the case, and it's in fact the city's discretion whether they want to take the money or not. So bottom line is, if you wanted to, we could theoretically be looking at 51 units instead of 61 units.
No.
Yes.
Okay, I'm
So
not gonna
David-
It's a
argue with you this
possibility.
way. We're gonna
It is
just-
a possibility.
It is a possibility, isn't it? Because the park,
Yeah.
because we're
But it
talking.
depends how much land you would accept and how much.
Well,
cash
that's
you would
right,
accept.
and
I
I'm
mean,
just
it
saying
could be-
theoretically-
You could take 1 acre and then that would change
That's
the
right.
number.
That's right, because that 2.34 acres
Yeah, we
represents
said that.
about 7 houses. Isn't that
We
right?
have a park commission and a planning commission that have told us why, and they wanted to keep the money instead, so.
Madam Mayor and Council, I think, as has been answered a number of times, Ralph, Mr. Harrison, I think you've heard it from our attorney, that if the city accepts land in cash in lieu of, yes, we would have to recalculate the exact number. I don't know that we've recalculated what that number is, but it is less than the 58.
Yeah. I bet if you calculate it, you'll find out it's about pretty close to 51. But anyway, just so we're crystal clear on that. I mean, everybody here seems to be real crystal clear on it. So anyway, let's go right to the city code. I won't take too much of your time, but you know, the developer wants a PUD, and I think that's probably makes sense in this case because it is a unique piece of property, and they need flexibility. But one of the, you know, when I look at the city code, which represents how the city is supposed to be guided, it says, page 184, under subsection 6, expectations of a development seeking a rezoning of the PUD. This is the city code. This isn't me, okay? You can look at it on the computer if you want. It says, the provisions of this article are intended to achieve the following public values within a PUD zoning district and associated subdivision. And I assume these are listed by priority. The first thing mentioned is A, maintain the sense of open space character of the community. That is the first sentence. Open space shall be of size, shape, location, usability for its proposed purpose. Whenever possible, common open space shall be linked to the open space areas surrounding the developments. That's the first thing that is said in the city code regarding PUDs. I hope that the city would be cognizant of that. Preserve natural open spaces for their aesthetic, ecological value, so on. Let's go on to D. Provide a high-quality park, open space, and trail opportunities that meet or exceed the provisions of the Parks, Trail, and Open Space Plan. Which goes back to your comment about the Parks Commission and the fact that this is labeled, categorized as a mini park, and you talk about the quarter-mile radius and the 500 people that it serves. Well, I would submit to you, I don't know when that was done, when that study was done. I know that the map that I've been looking at right here, I don't know when it was, you know, when this was set up, but I think it might be a bit outdated because if you look at this map, you'll see that that quarter-mile radius doesn't even cover the entire Red Oak Golf Course. So obviously, it doesn't pertain in this case. You said, I think it was 72 households or 74 households, and then with the addition of Red Oak Golf Course, this is going to serve, based on the demographics that you guys looked at, 374 people or something like that. Well, I don't know, but I'll tell you one thing. I live across from that park. I granted access, a variance, for the city to build that trail to the park. And I see people every day walking in that park that are a lot more than a quarter-mile away. And if you don't believe me, you go back and look at the petition and see who signed it and look at the addresses, and you will find a lot of people that are from Jennings Cove, Bayside. It isn't just a quarter of a mile. And you're not even taking into consideration the additional developments that are going to come along soon. Martineau's going to develop. You've got 2 people next to him that are going to develop. Where are they going to go? So I don't know if it's can be categorized as a neighborhood park. It's probably not that big, but it's certainly going to be, it needs to be added to in a way that's going to be productive for the additional families that are going to have to come into this thing. And the fact is, as was pointed out, there's a reason why it's called Saga Woods Hill Park. It's a woods, and it's a walking path. And unless you guys are going to clear cut the park, there's no way you're going to be able to make this good for kids.
Ms.
So,
Ralph, you know, I respect you a great deal.
all right, I'll let you go on that.
But if you're gonna just stand there and berate us until we're done,
I am
don't
not trying to be
appreciate that.
obnoxious. I'm just trying to point out
I
the
didn't
fact.
say that word, you did, and I just think we need to get to the bottom of this. And I don't know if you heard, but I did suggest that we take some of the park money and use it toward this park. I didn't say how much or who should decide.
The
But
park money isn't gonna help this park, except
Well,
for
see, you
maintenance,
already
because you
have
need
it.
to expand the park in order to make it accessible for the kids that are gonna be using this. Unless, I mean, 'cause
Well, I moved into my neighborhood and I thought, gosh, I'm going to go here because all old people are going to live here. And lo and behold, not 5 minutes later or 5 months later, it was filled with little tiny children. I
Right.
lived 20 years there,
Yeah.
with little kids. So you don't know who's going to work
I
in
agree
there.
with
That's
that.
my point.
well, I think we're probably gonna have a lot of new families
Okay.
coming.
Well, from now on, let's just concentrate how we can do the best thing we can do for all of us.
Well, that's what I'm trying to point out, is that the fact that this is categorized as a mini park, so it shouldn't be, and a mini park is categorized in your park plan, you know, regarding certain criteria. That's all I'm trying to say, is that those criteria really don't apply here. That's all.
I think part of being a mini park is not only that it's small and that you have not as many amenities, is there's no place to drive there. You look at Minneapolis Avenue and Grandview Avenue, where are people going to park?
Right,
They decide to come and use
right,
that.
which is another reason why you should have parking available on this at this park. The only way you're gonna do that is if you add on to the other side where you've got a chance to put some park space. And once it's gone, you're not gonna have another chance to do it. So, just please consider the overall balance of what you're looking at. And consider the kids that are gonna be moving into this neighborhood and the accessibility to parks, that they're gonna have to walk down a street to get to this park. And they're really, unless they're gonna be little kids playing on that little kid equipment, they're gonna be relegated to walking through the woods because that's what the park was designed to do.
Sure. And it has great wildlife in it.
It does, and spotted owls, so
Good
don't
thing.
touch those woods.
Great horn.
Yes, that's right.
Thank you, Ralph. I appreciate it, Mr. Harrison. All right, where are we now? Okay, council. Do you wish to ask any questions of the staff or the developer or whatever?
I think as long as we're just taking off of this park system, or the park deal, what does 2.1 acres get us in this development? I mean, what can you use it for? I mean, you obviously can't put baseball fields and stuff like this in, so I'm assuming we're looking at swing sets and things like that, right?
Probably.
And there's no way of adding that to the existing Soggy Hills Park?
Improvements?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's certainly, as has been mentioned, it is a heavily wooded park. There are, though, open areas. Swing sets was mentioned as an item not being there. Certainly, swing sets could be accommodated, and other such features added, keeping the trees in mind as improvements are being considered for that area.
Right, and that's why I'm just kind of trying to get a feel for, if we took the 2.1 acres, what would we do with it? You know, what would you, other than swing sets and stuff like that? Like you say, it's not big enough for soccer field, it's not big enough for baseball field like we have in Hunter's Crest, Turtle Creek has softball field. I just don't want to take it and then all of a sudden it's, what do we do with it? What kind of park do we make out of it? You know, that's what I'm kind of wondering, what the Parks Commission, what their, you know, reason was for their recommendation. And obviously, they didn't feel that it was a good fit for another park.
Well, I guess to answer a couple of Ralph's questions, the Park Trails and Open Space Plan was adopted in 2004. It does get amended, not every year, but the latest update was done in the end of 2010, 2011 was the last update, so it does get updated periodically from time to time from a capital improvements standpoint. And through the updates that it's gone through, what we classify as a mini park still does hold true to that, and it does meet those classifications as called out in our Parks, Trails, and Open Space Plan. So what was really being looked at by the Parks Commission when they look at a development proposal is does it meet the criteria of that plan? And given the size of the park and the radius, it does serve the area of this development and can allow for the future developments that it was mentioned here earlier. So that's what they were looking for in their recommendation. And also taking the suggestions from the neighborhood, looking to use the park dedication money for those future improvements. As mentioned earlier, there's around right now $60,000 worth of improvements looking out to 2020, and there could be more, you know, if more improvements are made per the direction of the council, if the park dead money is taken for it instead of land.
And that was kind of my question. I think the first improvements were at like 2019. Could we step that up?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That was my question,
right,
too.
whatever this comes of this development, that we have those improvements when the houses are being built, so the kids do have some place to play. You know, to me, that would be huge. You know, why would we wait, you know, what do we, you know, quite a few years to wait until, what, 5 years, 6 years before we make the improvements?
Yes.
And Arlene, you're the liaison for our parks, right? So you could probably question them about that a little bit at some point with David.
As the Parks Commission does every year, which we'll be starting in the next couple months, we'll be looking at the 2015 CIP to recommend to the City Council. So depending upon what is decided with this proposal, If it's the desire of the council to direct the Parks Commission to look at improvements for 2015, that would certainly be added to the top of the list.
One other question, I don't know, Mark, do you know how wide Grandview is right now?
I don't recall off the top of my head. Does the applicant had a survey? Do you happen to know off the top of your head the width of that? We could certainly evaluate that, and if the council's inclined, if they're inclined to move forward with that connection or the proposed improvements that the applicant's required for, if you wanted to state a standard width of 24 feet, we could make it to that width, or 22 foot, I guess, is probably something that we would find acceptable. I don't recall. I have a feeling that it was 20 feet, and any of the property owners that know,
Yeah,
or
kinda
anybody
like
knows, but
the
I think
other
that's
two.
how we came to that requirement of 22 feet. I think it was about 20 feet in width, and looking for a 22-foot wide roadway, 2 11-foot drive lanes.
Was not
With
Red Oak
gravel
Lane
shoulders.
larger though, or wider, like 28 feet? At the planning commission meeting, somebody
Correct.
talked about that, so,
Yeah, that is 28 feet. in width.
okay. That's where I got
And
that. All right.
the
I-
width,
If I could maybe just address too, one of the speakers that highlighted the request for a sidewalk. And I briefly just did a quick calculation at the planning commission, and I can do that again here, with a 50-foot right-of-way. The roadway is 28-foot face of curb to face of curb, and the measurement on that type of curb is actually an additional foot to the back of curb. That's the surmountable curb. So we're looking at a 30-foot roadway with a 50-foot right-of-way. So you're looking at 10 feet on either side of the roadway. If you put a trail on one side, for instance, you're looking at a sidewalk 1 foot inside the right-of-way. So you're down to 9 feet, and you put in a 5-foot sidewalk, it leaves you a 4-foot boulevard. And if you're looking at boulevard trees, it's not very practical to have a tree 2 feet behind the curb and gutter with the tree overhanging the roadway. And so it becomes not very practical unless you're looking at, different right-of-way width where you're pushing that out, but then you're looking at setback changes to the plat, and it's very confined parcel as was previously discussed. It's unique, and so they're looking at a 50-foot right-of-way like we've allowed in other neighborhoods.
Yeah, that to me, the sidewalks, I think are almost a must. Hopefully we can figure something out. Pretty much all our new developments have. Hunter's
How
Crest.
wide would you say they would be, just out of
What's that?
curiosity? The sidewalks, how wide?
I've seen 4-footers,
Okay.
5-footers.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying
Depending
for
on the
this
city.
area. I mean, I've seen them all widths, but.
Well, I know, it just seems like it's just from a safety standpoint, to have someplace for the
just like-
kids to walk. Right? And I think, like you say, all our new developments have sidewalks. Hunter's Crest has sidewalks on one side, trail on the other. I don't know, from a design standpoint, I know that it's a challenge, but I think it's very important.
Some of the neighborhoods do have it. Typically, your lower volume roadways don't. And so, like Hunter's Crest, Hunter's Trail does have a trail and sidewalk. It's a larger parkway. But all the residential, neighborhoods throughout there do not have sidewalk.
How about Saunders, north or south?
Not all of them do.
Right.
Is what my
Most
point
of
is, I
them
guess. So
in Hunter's
you could-
Crest have them on one side. They're the ones that I've been, I've walked that neighborhood a couple of times.
Yeah.
And
I see David, kind of shaking his head also. I don't recall that myself.
Not
I know
all
some
of
streets
them.
do.
Most of the collectors don't, but the main streets, thoroughfares do. Like Woodland Cove is similar to this. The main thoroughfares will have sidewalks or there's a lot of trails, but many of the streets in Woodland Cove do not have sidewalks.
And was that their choice, or was that just the development that came in?
Well, through the process, what was determined to be suitable for the site with the developer and the city council.
have you looked at that Minnesota minimum impact design standards where they go down to a 22-foot road, and then they have the water gardens, which would also help them with some of their runoff issues? That would be along Grandview, instead of widening the street. Except now it sounds like it's only 20, and you need at least 22. But it's supposed to make the traffic slow down, and it's.
Right.
Is that not a possibility?
There's a lot of competing interests, and so the fire chief doesn't want to see anything less than that, because there is on occasion the need for parking on the roadway. We don't expect people to park on the roadway around the clock, right? And so when you have those, the fire chief is pulling out his hair and screaming, no, 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 you can't do that. You've adopted certain standards, and those standards are, you know, typically a minimum of, I believe, 26 foot, David, if I'm not mistaken. Our street standard for the city is 28 feet. Have we reduced that? We have. We've gone to 24, I believe, in a couple areas in Woodland Cove, I think, most recently. And so,
So is this going down, so is Grandview gonna be 24, or is it gonna be 22, or what is it gonna be?
I just referenced 22 if that's the desire of the council. And I think that's what we had referenced earlier. Number of our old rural roadways,
Yeah.
Game Farm Road, for instance, is one where the asphalt is, I believe, 22 feet in width with gravel shoulders. Again, with the 2 11-foot drive lanes. There's no parking on that, of course, but in a neighborhood, there likely will be some on occasion on the street, whether someone's hosting an event or a birthday party, things like that. So there will be parking on the street on occasion as well, and so.
And I'm assuming you can't push the boulevard trees on the other side instead of having the, you know, the curb, the trees, and the sidewalk, at least on one side, to actually put them in more into the yard.
That's something that we could certainly ask of the applicant. It wouldn't be boulevard trees in the sense that they're the city trees.
Right.
But they would be in the individual homes, and, you know, I know the setbacks are relatively small right now as it is, and so I think that's something that could certainly be entertained and discussed, certainly.
Well, it would be a little different looking, but at least you would have a sidewalk of some sorts. Like I say, you could do it on one side, but you'd only have a sidewalk on one side, and just take your boulevard trees and actually use them as front yard trees. But it'd still be the same amount of trees, because they're looking for places to go with trees anyway.
Right. That could help.
Well, it's an option.
Mhm.
I mean,
Okay, any other questions?
If I could just ask David, maybe if to pull up that plan, you know, I know that the council's not saying this is the way we're going with it, but just to look at the actual plan itself, I would presume that it would be the main thoroughfare coming off of 19. I just want to know, is it all the public streets within this development that you're considering that for, or is it the main thoroughfare, or what?
I would think it'd be the thoroughfare. I don't think you could do more than that.
right. Right, I think mainly is to get, like you say, kids and people wanting to walk up to the park, that they have one way to get there. Like, you don't have to do it on every one of them, but at least on the main thoroughfare anyway.
Takes up so much room, rotate like that.
Yeah.
But if you were able to not have such a wide road, so that you'd have more room to do that. I mean, that's what they're doing in Maplewood.
And I have no problem with that as long as Mark says they're safe enough. And
Well, they actually slow traffic. They handle storm runoff if they're
I agree with
correctly.
you. I think it's sort of a surprise at first, but after that, I think it's a good thing.
You know,
Mark, were you saying something, or I got the two Marks mixed up here?
I was just gonna say, the only thing is, I'd hate to have no parking in this neighborhood on the streets. I mean, that would be really tough for residents to,
Have company and.
So you
Right.
don't go down to 20, I don't know, maybe you go down to 24. You can still park on either side of 24 and still have a car get by.
right, and I know some communities do parking on only one side,
Yeah,
you know, and that gets to be an issue.
I
with-
don't know.
Yeah. I guess the only other comment that I was going to make is, I know you're looking for 65-foot wide lots, when our standard is 70. And you're at about 7,200 square feet. And our standard's about 9,500. Was wondering if there's any way that we could, you know, increase those. I mean, I know we can't get them to 70, but get them close to 70.
As you look at the plat here, we've looked at several options here, and the PUD exceptions that we're asking for are really what is necessary. It's just not possible to have 70-foot lots, and what are you gonna
Just add one thing. We're asking for the PUD down to 65 feet for flexibility, but if you actually look at our preliminary plat and the dimensions, because some of it lays out, there's not a whole lot of lots that actually are 65 feet. We need that in some of those areas to meet the density, but for example, if you pull out our preliminary plat on sheet C302, majority of those lots are 70 feet wide, 82. I mean, every lot in this development isn't 65 feet wide. There's just some of them that are, and we need that flexibility to get down to the density required.
Do you know how many are down that far?
I have not. I can,
That would be
give me
interesting.
5 minutes and I can maybe count that.
Okay.
Right, and where are the 65-foot lots?
Let's go through it here, Dave.
'Cause that
Well,
would be good.
I can tell you where the 65-foot wide lots are along that south end along Grandview.
Right, that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
And what would be the problem with making those lots a few feet wider?
Then we would lose lots and we wouldn't meet the density.
Well, you're already above the minimum already,
Part of what,
right?
yeah, we are a couple lots. First of all, I think we should talk about a couple things. The 58 is really 59, I think, because if you take the net area and you divide by 58 lots, you end up with a 2.96 density, not a 3.0 density. So you need 59 lots when you do that calculation to get over 3.0 density. If you go the other direction, you end up with a rounding error. I know it's a nit, but I think 59 technically makes the formula work. And the extra couple of lots that we have to get to 61, we have in here because in part we're trying to pay for the additional expense of oversizing the storm ponds, which is something we're voluntarily doing. And so our hope was that part of that money would be able to fund some of those expenses. And so in the grand scheme of the give and take, we are a couple over the minimum, but having 2 less lots in here isn't going to make the neighborhood look any different. The homes that are going to be built in here are going to be the same homes. It's only going to affect the lot widths on a few lots and a couple of the blocks. Everything else is going to be the same. And it makes it more difficult to do some of the other things we're trying to do. So I guess that's our general take on it. But it won't change the character or the look of the feel of the neighborhood really perceptibly, I think, one iota.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Bob?
My question was the same as
Oh,
Mark, but
yeah.
he beat me to it,
And I
so.
wondered too, who would make a difference
Excuse me,
except for
Madam Mayor.
people that live there.
Going through and doing a quick count, I get 15 lots that are at the 65-foot width.
Or less.
Or less, some of them are less, only at the front, but we meet the 65-foot at our front setback. So it's those lots that go around a curve on the outside. But we always meet 65 feet at our front setback, and there's only 15 of them that do that. That are 65, or the rest are over 65.
Well, for sure, it's a very difficult piece of property to develop. It's very emotional because people have used it for lots and lots of years, and we all liked the Wang Stearns, and they built a lot of things out here, and so it's hard. So, try to get the best you can out of it. It's to be. Do you have anything to wrap this up with, Mike? Because we do have to move on eventually.
Yeah, Madam Mayor and Council, you do have a number of action items for you this evening. Again, there's some considerations for you on the table. I guess from my perspective, there seems to be at least 2 main areas of concern. One is the cul-de-sac versus through street.
Correct.
And the other is the park dedication versus the donation of the land. Those really seem to be the 2 main issues. Probably a couple issues at stake is sidewalks, maybe width of the road. And there might be a couple other ancillary ones beside that. Those are kind of the main issues. Certainly
Help me with one thing with that though, because I talked to you many, many times, and Ron and the planner and everything, about cul-de-sacs, and we talked about them to death, and yet we're still considering them, so it's a case-by-case basis still. Is that what we're saying? Ron,
Well,
anybody, I don't care.
I think that's the decision, or that's the discussion at hand for the council, is that you have, talking about the cul-de-sac versus the through street. You've heard from the developer, they are indifferent to how that is designed. They will accommodate either or. You have a recommendation from the Planning Commission and from city staff that a through street be considered. And ultimately, I think as Mr. Beatty said earlier, that decision is yours. And that, as part of the application, you will need to decide which route is better for the city and the community in general. And so you've heard arguments
Well,
or
let me go
discussions
back.
both ways, and so that is,
Second.
it's not, staff is not intentionally throwing it on your lap,
Okay,
but that's
I got
where
it.
it needs to be, is a discussion and a decision by the council as to which is the better way to go.
I'm gonna go directly to Ralph and Susan. I want on Grandview because that's where you live. And I've heard so much testimony and so many things. Can you explain to me why you do or do not want a cul-de-sac there?
I do want a cul-de-sac because of the
Okay.
safety issues, because of the traffic issues, because of the width of the road issue, because of kids walking down the road with bicycles and everything else, and two-way traffic going past and through, it's just too dangerous.
And Ralph, you have anything to add to that?
I just don't see mine would be so difficult to put a couple of, at least a couple of small parcels that would be 2 units to the west of that park, so that the kids in this development have access to the park.
No, right now I'm talking about cul-de-sacs. I'm sorry, I can't do that, but, get back to the park part. So I don't know if anybody else cares about Grandview, but, I think it's very difficult to plow cul-de-sacs. We have one, they come in and then they can bring little trucks and come clean out and, stuff like that, but
I would just say,
I don't really care.
I would just say this, Madam Mayor, and I think we just got indicated we have 5 minutes and then we'll have to take a break for the tape.
Okay.
But I would just say this regarding the cul-de-sac. I think it is, obviously it's a difficult decision.
Yeah.
And I think everyone recognizes it's a difficult decision.
Okay.
For the residents that live nearest to it, obviously they feel very passionate about their position.
Sure.
Staff, I just hope residents understand that for staff, we're not emotionally invested in it. And so when we step away and just take a professional overview of that location, the through street makes a lot of planning sense. And as your staff, that's what you're hearing from us, is that from a planning perspective, it makes a lot of sense for the reasons we've mentioned of having a through street. And so I think the council understands both of those issues, and you have a difficult decision in deciding what is best.
And planning as well, right?
And, correct, so the planning commission has recommended the through street as well. And I think the same is true for the park. And again, I think we're up to about a minute here, but just to finish my summary is that you still have the same issue regarding the park. Certainly, we heard, you hearing from the neighborhood that wishes to have more green space for the reasons they've mentioned, all very legitimate reasons.
Correct.
You've heard from staff that recommends that cash in lieu of is a better scenario for the reasons we've mentioned. Again, I hope some of the residents recognize that from a staff perspective that we feel that the land is adequate. I know people will differ from that opinion. It's unfortunate there's been almost too much criticism based on staff recommendation on that front, but
Okay.
staff feels confident in the recommendation we made for the reasons we mentioned, that we have enough land available, and for the council, you'll have to decide what is appropriate amount of land. And with accepting more land, you are accepting more cost. And we have to maintain that land, we have to mow that land, we have to insure the land, so there is more cost associated with that. And so staff thought there was a better balance between accepting the money and using those monies for the park. And that's, if you look at the whole park structure and how we finance parks, that money comes from park dedication fees. And some of that money stays in the local park, and some of those monies need to be used in other parks. And so that's how we fund parks, and trying to find a good balance between land and money, because as pointed out earlier by David Abel, there's $60,000 worth of future improvements, or more money than that, depending on what's discussed.
Well, I think that's a good point, and I think we could put some of the money that was dedicated here to park dedication into this very park, or save it for, David, did you say 15 or 16 or 17? So then people know exactly what they want in there. The new people will have moved in somewhat. And see, I don't know about the 2 lots. I don't own them, so I don't want to say that. But I do think there are things that can be done with that park dedication more than, I think we can split the baby, if you will. And the cul-de-sac is kind of a no-brainer for me.
And if I could interrupt you, I'm sorry, I think we have to break for our.
Oh, I was hoping, okay. 5 minutes, and then we'll be back, because we have to vote on this. We've just about beat it to death, so. All right, we are back on TV, I hope. We spent 2 or 3, 4 evenings over this issue, which is, I think, is appropriate that we do this. This is a very strange, not strange, but different lot, and there are people that needed to move on. There are people who want to move in. I think we've heard from the residents all around, and they've had some very, very good ideas. We've tried to go through as many as we could and see if we could make any changes. We're very, very finite in what we can change here due to the zoning and some of the other things, but I think we've vetted it as closely as we could. I want to thank especially like Jody and Bill and the Harrisons and so on, who have kept me abreast of what they think is the law and what they think is the code and what they would like to see in their own backyard, and I appreciate that and respect that. But I think the time has come. It's almost 11 o'clock, and I am now going to take it back to the council, and we're going to make a decision. So, council, what is your pleasure?
Are we interested in any changes, or are we good with, I mean, I don't know, what do you guys feel about sidewalks? Or,
Some
well,
people don't want sidewalks. I mean, we're back
When-
to that again.
Well, that's okay, I'm sorry, I just want to, you can go ahead and ask the question, Mr. Vanderlee. I was going to just suggest, Madam Mayor and Council, what we have up on the overhead is 3 action items for this evening. The first is the rezoning. So maybe, what I was going to suggest, Mr. Vanderlee, is before we ask questions about some of the design features, if we take on the first issue first, which is the zoning, and then we can get into the questions you may have on sidewalks.
Question, is that all right with staff? Are you ready to go with the very first item or not? Nobody is saying anything. I've never had seen council like this before. The first item that has to take place is the rezoning of the property
correct.
to
So if there's-
PUD before anything else can happen.
Well, I'll make a motion to rezone the property because it makes sense to go to a PUD, no matter whether we put in sidewalks or
Right. No.
change the density. We're gonna have to do
that
that
makes
anyway.
sense.
Right, I agree.
I will second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to rezone this property, this old Red Oak Golf Course, to a PUD. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Carried 5-0. The next item is a resolution authorizing publication of this ordinance, which is number 416 by title and summary. That's something that we'll do with all our ordinances.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to publicize it through title and summary, which is just a little bit shorter. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, motion carried will be 5-0. Now we'll get to the preliminary plat. Do we want to go over that anymore, or do we just want to vote on it? What would you say?
Correct, Madam Mayor.
Changes
Can I get
Made.
I'd like a clarification on
Okay.
something here. The conversation has been going back and forth, and they were talking anywhere from 51 homes to 58 homes, 59 homes. And I do recall you mentioning the fact that 2 homes isn't gonna make a lot of difference here in this area. Are we talking 61, or are we talking 59?
In our view, according to the minimum 3.0 density, 59 would be the minimum, and 61 is within the range of 3.0 to 3.5, which is what the property is zoned as, and it's at the low end of the range, so.
How many homes are in this plat though that you have given us? We're at the plat.
61 homes are drawn currently,
61.
if that's the question. Maybe I misunderstood the question.
Any other questions? If not, I'm gonna entertain a motion. We've been sitting here, I sat here 4, 5, 6, 7 hours the other day, and now it's getting to be that again, and not that I mind doing that, as long as the conversation is going along, but it's not, so I would entertain a motion.
You can make a motion. I could, couldn't I?
But I'm not going to.
Well, like I say, I would still like to see the lots as large as possible myself. I mean,
What if they are?
what's that?
What if they are?
What if they are what?
as large as they're gonna be.
They're not.
Would it change anything if the was changed from 61 to 59?
Well, I mean, it's gonna make a little more green space. I mean, it's gonna be a little larger lot. It's not gonna be quite as dense. Is it gonna make a huge difference? No. Is it gonna
It
make
probably wouldn't make a whole lot of difference, but I mean, I don't think there would be a major problem of going from 61 to 59. Getting down to 51, I think, is asking too much. Personally.
Right, I think
David, do you have anything to say about that, or Ron? One of you, before we get in trouble here.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, Council, the density that is being proposed is within the limits. So that per se is not a reason to deny this. That doesn't mean that you have to like every 61 unit subdivision, but I think if you want there to be fewer units, you're gonna need to articulate what it is you want them to do and why it is that you do not feel that this plat meets ordinance requirements. Because the density itself is okay.
Right, it's in the range, like I say, I'm just 65-foot lots, me, would be
We
nice.
have some of those though in Hunter's Crest and a few
Well, I
places.
mean, Mr. Vanderlade, I mean, I think you're hitting at something that would be a reason for doing that. In other words, I don't think you could turn down this plat because it didn't have 58 or 59. I don't know.
Right.
Tonight's the first time I heard 59 because the number is within the range. But I think you could say, nonetheless, we want you to redesign your plat to have wider lots because we like wider lots, or because we think you'll cut down fewer trees. I mean, I don't know what that does. I can't redesign the subdivision, but it needs to be for some reason such as that rather than the density per se, because again, the density does meet your requirements.
Right, and I understand that it is in the range, you know, I get that. Like I say, my thought is just, would be nice to have a little bit larger lots, you know, as large as they can be. Like I say, that's, you know, I'm okay with, like you say, the density is not grounds for turning this down. But like I say, personally, just looking at it, some of the lots, especially on the south side, seem to be very tight, very tight. And that kind of confuses me a little bit because it's a strip. So I would think that would be the easy place to put the wider lots. If you get into some of the corners and stuff, and then you're restricted on what's there because of the wetland and stuff like this. So that's what, I was a little confused. I expected to see the 65-foot lots more down by the drainage, the nerf ponds and stuff like that, where you don't have a lot of control. But being it's just basically it's a meandering street that goes through, so to make each lot a couple feet larger, that to me, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. You know, I don't know what the council thinks about it, but that's just my
I think what we're missing here is green space. We're so used to seeing, you know, green everywhere. I mean, I have no problem with the amount. Would I prefer it to be something else? Probably, because it's kind of a different corner and a different animal. But then on the other hand, Mr. Wangstern, who sold his property, he had a right to do that. That does not mean we have to say okay to the person that came in. But I would like to see a compromise reached somewhat where we found a little bit of more places to put some green space and take maybe a half or one of the lots by the park, and I don't have them here, so I don't know how big they are, and just kind of cuddle that around the park, and so they have a little bit more room. And I'd like to use a little bit of the money that will come to us from the park commission that sent it to us and use it on that park, whatever they need to use it on.
So are you saying take some land in lieu of
I'm saying
cash?
no, not in lieu. They can figure out the logistics of the money. I'm saying, I don't know how large the lot is that they're talking about. There's two of them there, down there by the park. But take a half of one, add it to the park, take some of the park money and fill in. I don't know what all is down there. When I was down there, it's mostly walking and it's woods and all that kind of stuff. But if there is one thing that they would like to have down there, and they have many neighbors who could maybe even make that decision and tell us, or tell the park commission, you know, we might have some place to start with.
Yeah.
And as time goes on, if other lots are sold or anything else happens, we could add to that, so that's my.
Well, I also think the important thing is not to mess with the holding pond, because, you know.
Correct, that's a very
That
good
has to
point.
stay, and I appreciate the fact that you're
Oversizing.
considering the fact of increasing the size of it to accommodate the area.
The additional couple of lots does help to pay for that, and so that, you know.
I think that's an important issue in the area there.
If I could just, I'm sorry to interrupt your deliberations, I don't want to do so, but what ends up happening is when you take the couple of lots away, the development costs are virtually the same, and so as a developer, I know you're not, probably don't care much about us, but you lose basically 100% of the revenue, so whatever you can ascribe as a retail value to these lots is lost, and you don't get the costs reduced in any way, and so part of what we're trying to do is invest some of that extra lot money into oversizing the ponds beyond what we're required to do. So that's the give and
Thank you
take
for
that
that
we were trying to go with.
So if in fact it was brought to 59, those two lots you're saying is gonna help you increase and
Right.
improve and therefore, if you weren't able to do that and reduce it from 61, something's gonna suffer.
We might have to reevaluate the size of the whole ponds,
Something's
yeah,
gonna suffer.
absolutely.
And that would be the holding pond, and that would be a mistake. In my opinion, that would be a mistake.
Well, we're trying to work within the boundaries of what we can work with, and so we thought the plat that we presented on balance was a pretty good plan, even though it had 2 extra lots above the minimum, in our view, or 3. We invested that money into making the ponds bigger to address a concern we really could do something about, and that was our view of the balance there.
Forgive me for asking for the, how many times, are we leaving Grandview open? Have we finally decided to determine that? We could kind of go down and say which ones we've decided on. Is that your decision to leave Grandview open, or are you cul-de-sacing it?
Again, our decision on that remains flexible. As a developer, we can accommodate the return of the cul-de-sac there because it doesn't impact the rest of the plat. If we were to close that connection back off again, we would just redraw the 60-foot radius cul-de-sac. It doesn't really impact the plan, and so from our standpoint, we're somewhat indifferent on that.
Okay. Yeah? Who can be next?
I think I had my questions answered.
No, we're just kind of going down the road saying where we're at. If not,
All
I'm
right.
going to ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion, a preliminary plat to be developed 61 single-family lots on 855 Red Oak Lane with conditions as outlined in the staff report.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve this with the 61 lots and the staff conditions added to it. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And those opposed?
Aye.
I also, not because I don't approve of the plan, but I did have some things that I would like to work into it.
It
But
was 3-2.
you need 3-2.
What's the vote?
Well, it was
3-2.
3-2. That passes.
Okay, it's majority.
Yep.
Okay. We are done. Now we have to go back to what?
1 second, Madam Mayor.
Don't even believe him that he used it to pay for the oversight. I was on the fence.
Thank you to all of you for coming, whether you are on either side of the issue. Glad to see you. Hope to see you again soon. Not under these circumstances, but
Yeah, I don't either.
All right, Madam Mayor, members of the council, the next item on your agenda is under business item C, which is a resolution authorizing preparation of plans and specs for the Lyle Park tennis court improvements.
okay, wait a minute till I find mine. I've got the SCADA, but we did that already, right? So it's Lyle Park. I don't have it.
Correct.
You go ahead and take it then because I don't have it.
All right, at this time, Madam Mayor and council, I'll turn it over to Mr. Abel, who
Okay.
will present this item for
Oh, I
discussion.
found it. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of council. Some of you may recall the master plan design for Lyle Park located in Hunter's Crest was developed back in 2006, 2007, and ultimately approved in 2008 by the City Council. The master plan incorporated improvements to be done in Lyle Park as it was to be developed over time. The site's been graded. There is an irrigation system there, but one of the future improvements calls for tennis courts on the site. I can get that master plan on the screen here. You can see the tennis courts being called out up on Partridge Road with a parking lot area. So just to update you to date what's gone on the site, there has been trees planted. There is a trail on the site. The ball field is there, but we do not have a park. The multi-purpose skate rink is not there as well, but that is what was approved in the master plan. Looking at the 2014 capital improvement plan, the Parks Commission made a recommendation to the City Council to use park dedication dollars for improvements to this park. City Council ultimately did approve that capital improvement as part of the budget, and what we're looking at this evening is a proposal to prepare the plans and specs and go out for bid of the construction of those tennis courts. Plans to be prepared by the city engineer. They would again prepare those plans and specs, go out for bid, and then perform construction inspections as the process moves forward. So the resolution before you would be to authorize WSB to do the plans and specs for the projects, in which time we go out for bid and bring those bids back to City Council for approval for that project. Timing-wise, looking at trying to get this set up so it can start as the weather would allow, as such, as early as possible in spring, so that hopefully it could yet be utilized for the summer of 2014.
Do we need to have a number in there, or is that's already been approved, hasn't it?
The number is listed in the scope of services.
Okay.
That's as attached in your packet. Looking at an estimated cost right now with the project itself, the total cost with plans and specs, construction documents for the project to be at $150,000, all said and done with the project. That again is a preliminary estimate, but that would be the total cost, again out of the Park Dedication Fund.
Great. Questions for David? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to authorize the preparation of plans and specs for the Leslie Park tennis court improvements.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Pass 5-0. The next item on the agenda is a water treatment plant discussion. Design, number 1 is design and number 2 is land. Is that you, Mike, or is it?
Well, I think, Madam Mayor and Council, this is our carryover conversation from our work session.
Right.
So really it's heavily in your hands, Mayor and Council, to discuss next steps. I think staff, from staff's perspective, we're here to answer questions that was presented in the work session. Mr. Rauscher is still here.
Well, I'm a little
Certainly WSB is here, and so if we need to revisit some of the conversation, I think this is the time to do that. Again, I think I'd highlight for you is the most recent direction by the council was to WSB in designing the plant. We spent some time, as noted in the work session, looking at the options, pursuing costs, operation costs, and construction costs for different types of operating systems. That information was presented to you. And so we would, for staff's perspective, be here to answer questions. And then again, I think we would be looking for direction from the council as to confirming direction for next steps.
I don't have all my stuff together today, as you know. I think we did talk about the design of the system and all of that sort of thing, but where is that right now? Is it already designed and we should approve it? Is that what we're doing here?
No,
it just says land, so, or design, so.
To summarize, we were authorized to move forward with the design of a gravity filtration system.
Okay.
We started down that process. We stopped and really reevaluated a number of different technologies.
Mm-hmm.
And as previously presented, I'll just kind of summarize those. The gravity filtration which was originally recommended, we kind of stopped that process and we looked at another option of RO or membrane technology, and those results essentially yielded in approximately $4 million in increased cost and anywhere from $150,000 to $200,000 additional annual operating costs as we stand today. And so we discussed a number of components related to that, particularly an option to construct the gravity filtration system to address the concerns that we're having from our property owners now, with the ability to expand that facility in the future should there be the need or the desire to move forward with the RO system without the expenses. If there's something that's resolved with regard to how to handle the reject water and we can avoid these tremendous costs from SAC, as well as the treatment costs, the ongoing operation and maintenance costs associated with treating the water. So there's that ability in the future, or if there's emerging contaminants that become a concern that are not presently there, the Department of Health is not requiring that, but that's more of a summary of kind of where we're at. I don't know if you're looking for additional summary, a little bit more detail. If you'd like, I certainly can provide that. Have a detailed presentation if you'd like to kind of go through and back through that if you'd like.
Do you have a PowerPoint?
It's the same presentation that we had
That we had earlier?
Yeah.
Council, do you want to see it again, or do you just want to talk with Mark?
You know, I've looked at it, and I'm not comfortable. Personally, I'm not comfortable with moving forward right now because I think it's important. There's some missing information, and whatever we do, I think is very important. But I want to make sure what we do right. And there's some questions yet that I think we need to have a little more research on. We need to do something. I'm agree, but instead of rushing into it, if it delays the project a bit, I mean, there's some unanswered questions that we're still dealing with out here yet. We still got a land issue. That's one of the things. I mean, there's things out there yet. I'd like.
Do you have a timeline in mind or anything so that we know where we're kind of with it or not?
Well, I think some of the questions that I would have, I think we could have addressed or would be able to address those in the next
March, April
within the next 6 months.
6 months? 6 months. Okay, and I'm going to get you a second yet here, maybe.
I just don't want to rush into something here and make whatever we do, I want to make sure we do the right thing.
Sure, and did something happen that I'm not aware of that was not a good thing? No, this is just your feeling?
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Is there a second to Bob's motion?
Before we do that, when you brought the land up, I wasn't part of the conversation. Unfortunately, we had a little family emergency last meeting and I wasn't here. I thought the land deal with the school was kind of a done deal, and now I'm finding out that for some strange reason, I don't really know why, would the school not want us to have this land? I mean, it's landlocked. They donated the land for the well. They donated land for the tower. There's a swamp in between. It's a little chunk of land. My understanding is they had said they had no use for the land. So I'm wondering why, what's the problem?
Let me make a clarification on that, and please jump in if you would like to do so. On the meeting that we had, meaning we, it was myself and Mr. Funk and Mayor Fisher. We had the meeting, and after proceeding, going through this meeting for an hour plus, the discussions were about the fact of obviously getting the land or having the school donate the land, which would be obviously an improvement for the water quality for the school, not only for the school but the neighborhood. And then also to make that happen, there was some trying to tie two things together, the land with the SRO officer, and they're separate issues, okay? But I left that day with the feeling that we had an agreement, okay?
As did I.
We
but
had
it was
an
a
agreement.
little different than what we talked to our council about.
And the agreement, basically, as we shared with you, is that the land was going to be given to the city, although the city would have the expense of the transfer and the legal fees or whatever would be involved in transferring the land. The second issue is that pertaining to the SRO officer, the city would get an increase of $4,000 to that fund for the SRO officer, okay? Now, needless to say, pardon?
The $4,000 was to go to us.
Yes, and needless to say, that was considerably less than we were expecting or hoping for, because the cost was considerably more. We felt it was very reasonable to go with the pay for what you use, in other words, basically have him fill out a time card. But under the circumstances, the $4,000 was an improvement, and I felt comfortable with that, as I think the rest of us did. Apparently there's some misunderstanding, because I thought it was basically we had an agreement, it was going to be proceeded to go on to the school board to have a decision made, and apparently there's some confusion yet, or we're not all on the same page. So at this point in time, please correct me if I'm wrong, but we're going to put it in writing to say this is what our agreement was going to be, two separate issues. And yes or no?
Address the SRO, and they wanted that addressed.
So,
But we passed a resolution
What about the SRO?
to request the land.
yeah, I'm a little bit surprised, because I thought we had an agreement, it was a done deal.
$4,000.
Well, should we just condemn it?
Oh, for heaven's sake. Is that World War III?
Well, I think at this point in time,
I don't even think you can.
the position at this
I don't
point in time
know.
is to try to get a better clarification. I mean, we've done our part, we had an agreement. Where are we at? I mean, I don't know where they're at, where they're coming from. Where are they coming from?
Can we just buy it?
We can buy it.
I mean,
Okay, let's buy it.
Unfortunately, it'll increase the cost, and it's gonna reflect in the rates. I don't wanna see our water rates being any higher than they have to be, but
Oh, they'll have to be
if we
buy
have
it.
to buy the property, I guess we have to buy it. I mean, is that the issue, that the money? I mean,
I
if
don't think
that's,
so. I think
don't
this
know.
rule will not be in, and I'm not the one you want to talk to, because I'm the one that thinks the SRO should be there. I think that Paul would back me up.
I think it's a cost
And-
issue. Who should pay for it?
Well, right, I
People who
think
live in
everybody
Waconia School District
agrees.
should not be paying for it.
right, everybody agrees that it was just, and
Well, either we're a community or we're not. I
You
say
know
that
what?
100
School
times.
districts are community.
I think it's important that we work together, and I think as it stands right now, maybe you could interject here, Mr. Funk, in terms of a letter that was gonna be put together, basically saying, hey, yes or no? I mean, we need to move
Well,
forward.
let's just buy it. Hire an appraiser, make them an offer. If we're gonna really do this, if we're
I
gonna
guess
do
what
it.
I'd really like to know is then what are the other areas, because if they get mad because we use that kind of a tactic again, then we should find another place.
well, we can do that, but it's gonna be increased cost.
Can't help it.
Well,
I
don't-
think people's egos get in the middle of this,
Right, but
and
I don't understand why this school you'd think you'd be
none of us
jumping.
do. But
I
just
mean-
just take a look at Ralph Harrison, look at the people that sit on the school board, look at us. We're all very determined people to get what we want, and hopefully for a cheaper price than we would have normally
They had a
gotten.
good deal.
Right, but
They
this-
had a good deal. They should have taken it.
I mean,
Maybe, given the benefit of the doubt, looking at the benefit of the doubt, maybe the three of us walked out of there with a different opinion, but I felt it was a done deal.
How comfortable are you with my talking to Kevin? See,
Either-
I just heard this from my administrator, I don't get this,
Yeah.
and just see what he says.
I don't really care, it's just like I say, it
But
doesn't
we
make
need to,
any sense.
because we're all together now, we have to give direction, we have to decide what we're gonna do now, because we don't have time to come back. If we're gonna really get the land, we gotta move forward.
We need to move forward, and we need to put a deadline. We need to put a deadline on it.
We already did a resolution asking for them
Well,
to
we can
donate.
send a resolution asking for that donation, I think.
We already
can
did
s-
that.
But we can
We
send.
need a deadline. Did we have a deadline on it before?
I think we can send another resolution saying, you offered us this $4,000 in addition to it, and it's not exactly what we were hoping for, but.
But they
we-
said
As a
no.
partner, we agree, so.
They said no by not doing anything at the last school board
I know,
meeting.
but that's supposing and assuming what people are thinking, which we can't really do.
I'm not, they didn't take action. A no decision is a decision,
Yeah,
in
A lot
my
of times
book.
we don't take action, I mean.
But we explain why we don't take
Oh, I
action.
don't
We
think.
need to put a deadline. We need a deadline.
What are your thoughts?
My opinion, we need a
How about
deadline.
March 6th? Sounds like a good
I
date.
think Mike wants to have.
Okay, get in here, Mike, yeah, you get in
I mean,
here.
there you get back into, again, I just assume on the water
Just buy
issue
it.
is important, but I mean, it all kind of goes together. And I think we can, I want to make sure we're doing the right thing with the water
I do
treatment
too.
thing.
I don't want to be adversarial, I want to be partners.
I mean, I don't want to have to sit here and look at the residents of Hunter's Crest and Painters Creek and the areas like that and do something that's a Band-Aid. I want to make sure whatever we do right.
Okay, well, that was good.
But if we don't have the land, we
Well,
can't do
Then you
anything.
can't do anything.
I'm still waiting to see what Mike has to say.
Go ahead, Mike, jump in. I'm
I
going
would,
home.
Madam Mayor, I would say I think we're feeling a bit frustrated because we've been talking with the school for a number of months. And I think we're trying to get to a place that we're comfortable with, and we're trying, and I think they're giving them the benefit of the doubt. I think they are too. And while we talk about keeping the issues separate, they are separate. I mean, we're trying to negotiate land. At the same time, we have a relationship with the school, with the SRO. And both of those happen to be colliding at the same time. Or I shouldn't say colliding, but both of those discussions are happening at the same time. So it's difficult to keep them separate because we're trying to then commingle them to some degree. As I see it, what the perception that I have, and obviously this is just based off of kind of seeing the conversations and seeing some of the email correspondence and the communications back and forth, is the school seems to be committed to donating the land. However, from their perspective, at least my read on it is, they're trying to minimize their costs of SRO. And so I think it's a matter of, who's willing to go first? Who's willing to take the leap of faith first? Because I think there seems to be some questionable, everyone's just trying to protect their own turf. And I think we're saying give us the land and we'll work with you in the future. And I think the school's saying, well, if you kind of work with us on the SRO thing, then we'll give you the land. And so it's a matter of just somebody saying, what, this is what we talked about, let's just do the thing. And so
I always think we're the ones that should step right up to the plate and do the right thing. And whether it's right, wrong, or different, we at least tried.
I mean, I think writing another resolution, I know we talked earlier, but writing another resolution or writing a memorandum of understanding, it's just, again, it's another delay in the process. And so I think if we're serious about trying to get land donated to the city, that's important to us.
It's huge.
That's important to us. And what's important to the school is working with us on securing a contract for the future SRO agreement. And so what's important for the school is that they sign a 2-year agreement with us for that $4,000 that we talked about. So they have given us that offer that was talked about. And I think it's just a matter of
2 years before.
2 years. And so I think what both sides are looking for someone to act first. And I think in good faith, if we are comfortable with the 4,000, then let's indicate to the school we are comfortable with that. And I think the land is coming our way. I think we just have to be willing to act on it, and let's move forward and get this done.
And I think we are.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we put this forth to them, that was a conversation that you, Cheryl, and Bob had with them. And like I say, unfortunately, I missed the last meeting, so I thought it was a done deal, and then I find out that it's not, and I'm kind of going, did I miss something here? I mean, ultimately, I think it's it's in our best interest to have, better water. It's the school's best interest to have better water at the lowest cost that we can probably get.
Not to mention, they just spent $30 million on rehabbing their facilities. If they had better water, the facilities would last longer.
Yeah, it all helps your boiler systems.
Well, from our last meeting too, it was everybody's understanding it was a done deal.
So that's why I asked the question.
So why wasn't it a done deal? I'm confused.
It's
I don't
not a
think any of
done
us
deal,
know.
it's just they feel like we, at least from what they sent us, that we didn't get the second half of it.
But they wanted to keep those things separate, I thought. That's what I kept hearing.
When we left, we were going to have something that said, well, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. I'm not going to sit here and argue for hours on end. It's just that they said, yes, we want to do the SRO, and yes, we're willing to give the land. You figure out what the appraisal is, and then we're going to pay for it or whatever. And I think they just feel that we didn't do the second half. We sent over the thing about the land and asked them for it because they wanted that so that they could respond to us. But I think they expected that what we said, because at the meeting, Bob and I talked about it, and we all talked about it, and Bob said, I think we can do that. I think we originally wanted a lot more money than that, but knowing how this all came down and whatever, I think the $4,000 for a smaller contract is fine. And we agreed on that.
And I think everybody here felt that was, you know, wasn't the
Well,
best thing that we were looking for, but everybody would
But
have
it
been
was
able to
something.
live with it. We
Right,
could have
we-
lived with it.
The school gave up something, we gave up
Yes.
something, we met in the middle.
There was a compromise.
Right, and that's what you want compromise, and I think that, I thought that's what we
Too
did.
much fighting in Mound, everybody's fighting about everything.
Well,
It's just-
so I mean, what do we need to do? Do we need to
I-
get the SRO contract to them at the
Sure.
same time?
I would recommend, I think, I would recommend this, that if you're comfortable with compromising, I think the school is too, and
How do you know that?
this is my recommendation to you. I don't, but this would be my
Well,
recommendation.
that's the thing, I
is-
haven't seen any
Well,
indication
you
from
might
them.
though, if he sends that over,
I
you
mean,
know.
they saw our meeting, we put together a resolution, we said we had a deal. What have they done?
They've sent us all our stuff, how much it costs and how much more they would be getting this year as opposed to last year. And they, you know, I think they've done their part, they sent over.
Nothing was mentioned at the school board meeting, which is, I think, is a fact, because it has to come, it's a school board decision to be, to go forward, I'm assuming.
I
so.
think they're okay with that, I think Boston even, what's his name?
That's what I felt that way when we left, that
Yeah, I thought we made some strides there that day.
a, agreement was reached.
My
So we gotta
recom-
go, where do we go from here?
My recommendation to you is that if you're comfortable with what you've discussed, to get, I think, some action, is to, a motion to support the concept of a 2-year agreement with an increase of $4,000
Each year?
Each of 2 years,
Yeah, 4,000 each year.
each year.
I would insist
So
on
not
that we put a deadline
4,000
on
one
it.
year and 8,000 the next year?
Correct, well, 4,000 each year, contingent upon the school donating the land.
And a deadline.
Well, they can't do anything before the end of February anyway.
I think they're willing to take it up at their next meeting, so I think if we
But
show
that's
good faith.
February
in-
20-something.
Well, we don't have another meeting till
Well, we have a
February
deadline.
18th, so.
If the deadline, if we have the deadline become March 5th, or whatever our meeting is, it's still gonna, you know, I don't know. I can't foresee it happening. It
Let's
should have
just
been
buy
done.
it. I think we should just buy it.
Well, we can't keep spending money we won't
Right.
have, so if
Well,
that's
it's-
one opportunity for us to pay.
Look,
make
here's how
some-
it's gonna work. You buy it from them, and then you jack up their rates. How dumb are they that they don't know that we're gonna do that?
I think that's a terrible thing to do to your
Of course you're
neighbor.
gonna do that. You have to pay for it. It has to be paid for through user fees. Of course you're gonna do that, Cheryl. How can you be
All right, that's-
disingenuous?
yeah. This meeting is adjourned, and I don't care what you do with the rest of it.
We have an EDA meeting still.
I don't care, have it.
I mean, that's how it works. You pay for your water improvements through
Yes,
it.
but that increase to that school did not come until there was a fight about the money or whether we were getting what we needed to. And everyone else agrees, everyone else compromised, everyone else ate their ego, but you.
That's not true. They didn't make a decision at the last school board meeting.
I'm
So
not-
how you can say that, I have no idea. We did go to them. We said, okay, we'll agree, here you go. And they said, we're not gonna vote on that.
They didn't say anything
Yes,
like
they
that.
did. They
You
didn't
weren't-
vote on it.
You weren't there. So if it didn't.
Let's
get to
just
them,
buy it.
I
Then
don't-
it's not an issue.
Well, no, the price has gone up, so.
No.
They're, you know,
All right,
They're our
are we going
largest
to EDA or what?
Well,
The meeting hasn't been adjourned. I mean, there needs to be a motion to
Yeah, I know.
adjourn if you're gonna do that, and then you can't have continued discussion. So, I mean.
well, I mean, you guys do whatever you want. Vote on it, go ahead. But I'm not agreeing to
Well,
it.
to
So
adjourn
you
a
guys
meeting-
can
To this
decide.
To adjourn a
Decide it.
meeting, there needs to be a motion and a vote on that.
I make a
Well, we
motion to
haven't- we-
adjourn.
No, we still have the EDA meeting we have to get through.
Well, no,
Do this first and then we do.
No, we
the-
can't.
yes, yeah, you would close out this meeting before you get to the EDA meeting. But the question is, do you want to adjourn this meeting? That's a decision of the body.
Well, what's left, the design and the,
Madam Mayor and Council, we have a number of important items that we need to resolve this evening. It's your discretion to close the meeting or adjourn the meeting, but staff needs direction on a few items, so.
what do you need? Just tell us what you need, because we can't seem to come to any compromise, so just say what you need.
Well, it's not just me. You guys can all vote on it. There's
at
five
this-
of
All right.
us.
We-
At
can
this
we
time,
just-
what I-
Let's just take a second here. I mean, we've got some issues here. And
Right.
it's getting emotional. And I think ultimately what we need to do here is we need to follow through with apparently what the agreement was. And if that's what it takes to get the contract for SRO ahead of time, I think we're big enough to make the to take the first step. We can do that, because I mean, that ultimately, that's what we're after, is to get this piece of property for our residents, so we can get better water for the residents, for the school, for the kids. And if that's what it's gonna take, I don't care, let's just do it. If the school doesn't trust us, or whatever it is, I don't know. I don't really care at this point. We just need to move forward with it. And if this is what it's gonna take, like I say, it's a compromise. I would say, let's just do it. Let's give them the contract, and I'm assuming that I wouldn't know any reason that they wouldn't follow through and donate the land to us.
The only thing I'm asking, Mark, is let's do the same thing. I'm in favor of that. We've been through this thing, we've sat in those meetings. The only thing I'm asking is the deadline.
Well,
That's okay.
that's fine.
What is-
Putting a
what is your
deadline on it.
deadline?
Let's not go through here and
March
have to sit
something.
here another month and be in the same position again a month from now.
I think we should make it like
Like
March,
to say, we'll just go
mid-March.
on.
I don't want her to tell me I told you so. There, let's do it again. Put a deadline on it.
So,
March 6th, I think.
so the recommendation that I had, and I think, and Mark summarized it, was a motion to approve the framework of a 2-year contract with the financial terms discussed at the recent meeting, contingent upon them donating the land, and to be done by,
Yes.
pick a date,
You said March 5th.
March 5th. I don't know, when does the school board meet?
When do we?
We gotta go by the school board meeting, because our next meeting's March 5th, so, we're March 3rd.
You have to,
We're March 3rd.
theirs is February something,
So they meet,
last Monday.
All we have to do is say by March 1st, so we have it back in our possession by the next meeting.
Theirs
say
is
by,
the last
let's just
Monday
say
of the
by
month.
March 1st.
I would be good with that.
And then what we would do conceptually is we would forward that motion. I'll communicate that to Mr. Borg. I think the school board then can hopefully then act on it. And if they do act on it, then we would bring the formal contract, SRO contract, to you for formal approval. But tonight, the motion is to approve the framework that was discussed.
We're fine with that.
So I would need,
Who
that
made
would
the
need to
motion,
be,
though?
I did.
Mark. Is there a
Yeah.
second? I gotta get that.
I second it.
Seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Okay, and I say that if it doesn't work out, Ann gets to go over there by herself and tell them what she thinks.
Don't you,
I'm just a realist.
Don't you do that.
That's all I'm saying. I'm just a realist.
okay.
Okay. What else we got?
Well, we do need to circle back to the water discussion. And you have, well, we do need to make some decisions on this. I mean, we have residents here, and I can tell you from staff perspective, this is an important issue. And staff wholeheartedly agrees we need to do the right thing. And I think that's what staff is advocating for. That's what staff is recommending in our.
All right, let's get on with it.
The recommendation by staff is to proceed with the final design
Oh, for WSB you're talking about?
for
Okay.
WSB
Is
to
that a problem
complete.
for people, or what's the deal here?
Well, I guess this question is to Bob. What questions are you looking for, I guess? I mean, what do we need to answer?
He wanted 6 months, he said, that's what.
I would, yeah, I mean, again, and I'm looking at some people here from Hunter's Crest. I don't wanna put a Band-Aid on it. Whatever we do, I wanna make sure it's done right. And that we're not having to address it again 3, 4, 5 years again because it might be outdated. And the other thing I wanna address too, are I'm not familiar with, there's been discussions in terms of support, financing,
When we'll do
and
it.
those kinds of things. I don't wanna put the cart before the horse here.
but
All
6
I'm
months
saying,
is a
my
long time to
opinion
wait.
is I'd like to just put it on the back burner for a little bit until we can do a little more research. That's my opinion.
Yeah, we were supposed to have a presentation.
I don't wanna rush into it.
On all the rate ideas, and are we gonna get drinking water fund? Are we gonna get that 1.5% loan?
We've
Can I say a
That's a
couple
good
things,
question,
and
because
then
I
I'll
forgot
let
about
Mark
that.
answer. Madam Mayor and Council, just to first address the timing of it. Again, we would, Bob, we certainly are, as staff, want to be able to answer any questions you have. I mean, tonight we gave you a lot of information. If there's
Yes.
something specific, that would be very helpful. Because in our opinion, I think staff would say, we've given you all the options. We've outlined the costs for you. So if there's something missing there, we would like to have specifics so we can get that information to you as quickly as we can. Because timing is really important here. And the reason that we had recommended back like November to authorize WSB to design it is that it takes 3 to 4 months to design. And from a bidding standpoint, we all know that the best time of bidding is the spring of the year coming up. And so by delaying the design, by delaying the project, even 3 months or even 6 months means that in essence you're pushing a bidding, the bidding time frame not to this year, but you'd be bidding it in the spring of 2015. And according to Mark, construction's a
Takes about 11 to 12 months.
so you're looking at you'd be then feasibly looking at a plant being online in 2016
And we've already said
and not
2015.
Again, staff would say we have concerns of trying to provide quality water, and I think that's in our mission statement, to provide quality services, and we need to improve our water, and we need to address it sooner than later. So if there are reservations, if there are questions you want answered, we would like to do that now, so we're not delaying a whole construction season and relying on Public Works and our staff to deal with a very difficult problem.
Reservation I have is I'm just not totally convinced that the gravity feed system is the best alternative for the city. But I also understand there's issues pertaining to the RO. I understand that. I'm not comfortable with it, that's it.
And does the
Mr. Funk,
1.5%
could I say something?
have anything to do with it either? Whether we get it or they get it or
I'm gonna take a
whatever?
Well, I just want to make sure we're gonna be able to finance it. Otherwise, you know, one of the things that Mike didn't mention is we did meet with somebody who would be able to, and they have not provided a proposal for us yet, but we met with them last week, that would design, build, and manage, so that they would put their own capital into it, and then our residents would pay those rates. And that is a more expensive option. They think it's a little faster, but you're paying a premium for it. So, and we don't have a proposal from them yet.
Are they gonna send one?
Well,
Do you think?
Well, I mean, they haven't yet. I mean,
we just met with them on Friday.
Yeah, I like the
that's
idea
a
of
whole,
the
that's a
residents
whole
didn't
new
even have
direction
to
to
have
have
a
in mind.
He should have input.
Because basically you would stop design where you're at. And in my opinion, and again, I haven't had the
Well, that's not,
opportunity.
I mean, I don't know exactly how it would work. It would depend on the proposal, but they might still use WSB to design it. I mean, they still might not, I don't
Well,
know
I
that
don't-
for a fact.
Generally speaking, what would happen is on design, build, operate scenarios, again, I haven't had an opportunity to visit with Mr. Beatty because it's all pretty new, is the city would want to go through it's an RFP process.
Sure.
And you would have to draft RFPs, interview a number of firms that do that. And so that in of itself is a lengthy process and time consuming.
Is it cheaper?
No.
No,
It's not
it's
cheaper.
more, it's definitely more expensive, but you're not tying up your own capital. But then the other thing that we've talked about, which I know they can't supply them in the summer, but you've talked about buying out from St. Bonnie as a short-term fix. Is that not gonna happen?
No.
We would still like to pursue that because we're still not looking at a plant operational until, the summer of 2015 likely now. And so not only the remaining portion of this winter and early spring, but also next fall, winter, and early spring as well. We'd be able to utilize that agreement to provide them water as an interim solution, at least during the winter months when we really have difficulty flushing. Again, I think our recommendation was, to construct the iron and manganese removal with the option of adding the RO if indeed in the future. So it's not an additional cost now, but ultimately, I mean, it's hard to justify that additional $4 million expenditure right now when it's one, not mandatory, and two, there may be changing regulations, or there may be changing ways we handle the reject water where we're not gonna be responsible to pay that essentially significant SAC charge of 2.8 million plus, again, the additional operating expense of paying for that to be treated. So I completely understand the questions that are there, and I don't think it's a Band-Aid approach. I mean, you heard Mr. Bradlich, excuse me, Ike, I'll call him. The only one in the metropolitan area is Minneapolis, and that's a surface water plant, and it requires it because of the contaminants in it. And so I don't think it's a Band-Aid approach. Every community in the metro area utilizes that. And we looked at the removal success, and it was tremendous. And so the pilot that was completed was very successful in the removal of those, the iron and manganese and radium.
If you don't mind, Mayor and Council, I really don't have a dog in this fight, but I've been seeing all the discussion taking place both at the council level and the staff level. And I'll just give you my 2 cents worth on the issue. I think it's commendable that the council members are interested in looking at alternate technologies that might be something that we'll have to deal with in the future. But I think right now, as proposed in the council pack tonight, and hopefully for a vote tonight, to build the plants as designed and called for by WSB will still allow you to look at that alternate technology down the road, especially given the fact that you could stub in certain things and have walls being able to blown out. I think you don't lose the year potentially of the construction season. I think we have an obligation to the people that live in the areas where they really have this terrible water, and I don't think it's going to get any better by waiting 3 months or 6 months to study it. They would like clean water now, and you heard from your staff members in Public Works that they're getting almost daily complaints about it, and this is winter. Wait till the summer starts. I think it'll get even worse then. Like I said, I think we have an obligation to provide them with decent water. I think it's bad for you as far as being city council members when you have people complaining about not having good drinking water and good bathing water and good dishwashing water and clothes washing water, and they're asking you to do something about it, and we're going to sit on it for 3 to 6 months to look at something that's more expensive and that we don't need right now. We've got pretty much every water treatment plant except maybe for Eden Prairie and a couple places that lime soften that have this technology right now. It's tried and true, and I think to sit and wait and deny those folks the opportunity to get their clean water is a shame. I think we have an obligation to clean that water up now, sooner rather than later.
Okay, and I do have one question. On the estimates for project costs, how come our project costs are so much more expensive than what Mound is talking about? They serve 10,000 people.
Tom, do you want to highlight that? Those costs were provided to us by various vendors that provide the actual equipment, and looking at previous bid results. I don't know, Tom, if you want to expand upon that a little bit. You certainly are more involved in the day-to-day operation of those estimates.
Our project costs were based on the equipment, the piping, the building costs, and I can't really compare it to Mounds because I don't know what is being proposed there.
Didn't you give them the numbers? Didn't you provide the numbers to Mound?
No, we didn't. No, we just provided some of the language and some of the feet. No, we did not provide the numbers to Mount.
Oh, I thought you did.
No, we did not. We talked just a little bit about the process, how we got to the point where we're at, and just really some of the experiences that they were encountering with their water quality and some of the reasons why. That was very early on. I think they had further discussions beyond that as well.
Okay, so on this page where we have costs, we have the 4.592 for the project costs, and then we have annual operation and maintenance. Does that include the chemical feeds?
Yeah, that is in addition to your current cost. That's how much more it would cost to operate your system after the 2 water plants are constructed. You're currently feeding fluoride, that would remain the same. You're currently feeding chlorine. We would increase chlorine, but we would discontinue polyphosphate.
So are you going to use, what other chemicals are you going to use? That's it?
Well, in the case of the North plant, we may wind up feeding HMO, which is a combination of permanganate
That's what I
and
was wondering.
manganese sulfate. The only time you have to do that is if you're not generating enough of it by the manganese that's currently in the water.
Okay. And, so on those costs, there's no additional MCS fees that aren't included in this? This is the cost.
I have SAC fees included in the project cost for the backwash water. That's a one-time project cost. And I also have treatment charges. Remembering back to the workshop, I based all of that on 4,000 gallons per backwash from the South Central plant, 2,000 gallons for the North plant. So that was factored into that operation and maintenance cost increase because you currently aren't paying that.
Okay, so, and you are really confident in these numbers?
Well, again, we've been working with a number of local sales reps on this as well, and they've reviewed the numbers as well. Initial feedback, they thought it was low in a comparison with another facility. They further evaluated and they said, yeah, they're right on with what we've expected and what we've identified. So we haven't just come up with the numbers ourselves, but we've also worked with various sales reps and identified these numbers. And so we feel very confident in that. We've also done other water treatment plants and looked at just a broad brush stroke. You know, if you're looking at a 1,000 gallon per minute plant, how much costs per 1,000 gallons, for instance, and made that comparison here. And we're a little bit elevated above that, just to make sure that we're considering, you know, potential cost inflationary things that you see with contractors on occasion. So,
Do you know what that is now and what it would be? Now you're paying them out. You're saying this is an increase over what we're doing
it's
now.
$31,450 above and beyond what is there today. Tom, do you have?
What are we paying today?
What do you have?
I did not go into your existing, I just added to it.
That's why I was just wondering what the additional cost was.
Because the cost of running your towers.
The additional is 31,000. So
No, I mean, but what is that?
Okay.
What was it and what will it be now? In other words, are we talking 5%, 10%, 20% more?
I don't know. I don't know what the current numbers are. And then I did have one last question. So if you build this plant so that you could add the RO skids down the road, there's no additional cost? Is that what you're saying? That you just have the partitions?
You would have to build the additional building for it. Like if we were to do it now, you'd have to build that building larger. So what we're saying is you would remove that wall and extend the building and make it larger.
Right, but you don't want to build the building today?
We don't want to build it today because we don't
Right,
know
but
if
what
you're
I'm
ever going
saying
to
is
utilize
it's
it.
not going to add to this cost?
Correct.
Okay. That was my last question.
And your estimates going to an RO system with the SAC charges was roughly about $4 million.
Correct.
So I think that's kind of the question where we're at, is are we willing to spend an extra $4 million for something that, like I say, it would be nice to have soft water. I mean, the only problem with that is, though, if you soften all your water, all that irrigation water is now soft. Where the way it is right now, most home softeners, the outside spigots, which are used for irrigation, are not softened. So like I say, what it comes to me is, are we willing to spend almost double on something that we may or may not need? And if you would tell me that we build this plant and in 5 years the Department of Health or whoever regulates says, no, we're gonna change it, this plant is obsolete, I would say absolutely not. But being that you're telling me that this part of the plant is still gonna be used no matter what we go with.
Right,
So
they are.
we're not wasting any money at this point. Anything that we build now is gonna be able to be added on to if we see fit later.
Correct. The RO system requires the iron and manganese to be removed in
Right.
advance of it. So
Right.
essentially it would be a series. It would be, you know, the iron and manganese removal and then the skids, the RO skids.
And I understand that you are gonna have a little extra cost just because of, once you've got contractors on site, if you build a 10,000 square foot building versus a 15, it's gonna be a little cheaper to build a 15 now than a 10 and a 5. get that part. But I just, like I say, an extra $4 million and knowing that we're wasting another, what, 20% water?
Right, and those are numbers that were provided to us as well, and, you know, those would be validated as well, you know, that's, I don't know how aggressive or how close they feel they're gonna be to that. I think it started out at 76%, and then it did go up a little bit as well, and so those numbers will be verified, and if it's different, then, you know, the SAC could certainly go up as well, and so hopefully, if something changes, like you indicated, in the next 5 years, there's something that's done through the Department of Health, through the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, where that reject water can be utilized and we're not having to pay that $2.8 million in SAC charges, as well as the additional increase in operating costs paying to treat that water as well.
Right, and that's the only way that can happen, is the Med Council gets together with Department of Health and a DNR and says,
DNR, Department of Agriculture.
We want this to happen, and we're not gonna charge these SAC fees. So that's what I'm saying, is part of it is, being that if we wait with the RO part of it, it essentially could be a lot cheaper if we wait until the regulations come down. That it's mandatory. Because, I mean, I can't believe that they're gonna come and say, well, you mandatorily have to do this, so now give us $2.8 million. I mean, I don't believe they'd do that. I really don't.
With the, there was another question as well regarding the funding, and I know Tom had done some preliminary analysis with the PFA, Public Facilities Authority, and we're very confident in our discussions with them that we would qualify for that revolving loan fund, where we would receive, I believe it was about a 1.5% interest rate based on our population.
Yeah, what PFA said is they anticipate they'll have enough money to go around all the way down to a priority point total of 5, and you basically get 5 for submitting the application. So PFA is saying they should have money to fund this project, and which in turn would reduce the interest rate, which in turn reduces your principal and interest and brings the water rates down. So that's something that we have been pursuing with PFA as well. And they're optimistic that they're going to have money. You know, what they do is they assign priority points and then draw a line through it where the money ends, and everybody above the line gets a loan, everybody below has to wait till next year or find an alternate funding source, namely bonds.
So Tom, how long would that be, do you think, before you can get a definite answer on that?
Applications
Well, we have to get on the project priority list, and I think the deadline for that is coming up this next month. And then the intended use plan, that's where they start drawing the line, that is June of this year, March and June.
And we believe we score 25 on that, correct? And they feel they're gonna fund down to 5, so I think we have quite a bit of room there as well, so.
It doesn't cost a great deal of money to get on the project priority list. I did that for Lonsdale, Minnesota, and it's like, I don't know, it was like $1,500 to fill out the forms. And then you get on the list, and then you get to the next is the intended use plan. You know, they draw the line, and then they'll give you a projected interest rate, but typically speaking, it's about 1.5% less than bond rate.
So you don't think it's necessary that we do that first?
Excuse me?
You don't think it would be necessary or important that we do that first?
Well, I think the project and the rates have all been determined based on bond interest, so that if anything, if you're successful with PFA, it'll just lower your costs. I don't think you're going to wait to see if you get PFA money to eventually build these water plants. So what I'm bringing that up is it appears as the potential exists where we can lower your costs.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to illustrate, is that the rates that were shown here earlier and the rates that we approved and we've advertised is reflective of some assumed costs, both for the construction, the operation and maintenance, and with the construction, an assumed interest rate. And so that assumed interest rate was based on more of the current bonding rate. So as Tom mentioned, we do get the PFA, and we feel very confident that we will, that lowers our cost. And that just allows us to then, as we analyze rates every year, we may not have to increase them at the rate that we projected. Because in our projections, we show increases yearly based on a lot of assumptions. And so you just analyze all those costs and revenues each year and you make adjustments accordingly.
Like I say, a big question to me, are we willing to spend an extra $4 million?
I mean, for the RO?
I'm not,
I'm not right now.
no.
I'm not, but, yeah.
No, I don't think any of us would be.
I'm not convinced it's double, though. I think it's 20 to 25% more. But,
Well,
but even
at
so,
that,
we don't have
I
any
mean,
way to
if we-
dispose of the,
If we didn't have water issues, we didn't, you know, I would say, yeah, maybe give it a little bit. I mean, this is
Yeah,
this
no,
is
I-
huge. People are asking for water that's clear when they open their faucet. I mean, would it be nice if it was soft? Yes, it would be nice. Is it worth even the 2.8 million? I would
well,
have a
I
real
would
hard
have liked
time.
to have asked our residents if they would have wanted to spend that. Because I'm on a well, so, you know,
Can you
I,
add the softening later?
yeah, you
Yes,
can.
you can.
I totally agree with you, but as I said from day one, from the beginning, I just want to make sure what we do is right, that's all.
Me too.
Well,
And then we're not short-sighted, and that we don't go, oh, now we got a TCE problem like Spring Park, and that's never gonna be
I think
solved
that's,
with a gravity feed plant.
I think that's what we're doing though, like starting with the gravity feed.
Right.
We can always work our way up to an RO system if we comes to a point where we either need it or we're required to do it. And I believe that if we're gonna be required to do it, that this $2.8 million of SAC fees is going to go away. I mean, they can't do this to basically every metropolitan city.
No, not when you start thinking about all the stuff that's in the water. See, that's my biggest concern is, okay, yeah, I know the regulatory stuff isn't there yet, but you can see it on the horizon. You can see that there are going to be new regulations, and then are we gonna be behind the 8 ball that we just didn't go full bore and do this when it was less expensive? And that has me worried. It's not that we're not gonna do something, of course we're gonna do something, but we wanna do the right thing.
Yes, but they're not gonna change, the Med-Council's not gonna change the regulations as far as dumping the SAC
No,
fees in
they
the
have
next
to
6
figure that
months.
out. Oh, that's
They're
correct.
not. I mean,
That is
according, when
correct.
we were at the meeting, they were like, yeah, we're looking into this.
But we're not gonna have it built in 6 months either.
No, I mean, and that's always an option. I don't wanna design a gravity feed system and then we end up 6 months or 8 months down the road and then we say, well, we wanna add an RO now. I mean, that will add cost to it, no doubt about it, right, Mark? I mean,
Correct.
yeah.
One additional item, and I think Ike had commented on it earlier this evening, is when you're out of compliance is when you become eligible for some of those grants and things.
Do we really want to do that to our residents?
No,
I don't.
not at all, but I'm just saying, if we're in a position where they change their regulations, oftentimes with that, it comes with funding as well.
Yeah.
So, not that we're in a position where we're not treating something that we're required to, but if they change regulation, oftentimes that does come with additional funding as well for communities to come into compliance.
So what do we need to do?
Yeah,
So,
that's what I'm
Madam
asking
Mayor, members of the
too.
council, I think,
Well, this is a lot of money to be spending. I think it deserves every minute of time we're discussing it.
I
Because
agree
people are
with
gonna
you.
ask us, why did you do this, or why didn't you do that? So
I think we should take it up when we can all be together, say even in the morning, and take whatever time it takes and not be trying it at 10 and 10:30 at night when we're all kind of.
Can we just, can we just move it back for the next session, so we got a chance to think about it, or do we have to do it tonight?
Yeah.
well, Matt, what we have, I mean, as I said, the last direction provided by the council is for WSB to final design. As Mark indicated, they've placed that on hold unless there's any other direction given. And so staff supports and has recommended that WSB proceed with the design, understanding that the design will consist of a facility that is gravity fed with the ability to be easily expanded in the future for other types of systems, mainly the RO. And so if, we'd be looking for your support to continue that process so we can keep it moving.
And why did we stop it and why?
So that we could fully understand all the alternatives
Okay.
and the costs and the regulations.
So since the last action was made, I think the council, from staff's understanding, just was doing further due diligence in analyzing the situation and further understanding the regulatory concerns and the issues and what other agencies and how they view water quality. And so I think we've had an opportunity to vet some of that out. There certainly are a lot of unknowns. There's no question there are unknowns, but I think at the same time, what we need to do is proceed with designing so we can.
Yeah, now, a lot of this information we just got this weekend for those people who didn't have it, you know, didn't delve into it very deeply. So should we call a special session to go over everything again? I mean, I don't know.
If we have to, that's fine. I mean, like I say, I just wanna make sure
I
everybody's
think if it's
comfortable.
that important, maybe we should, sometime between now and our March meeting, no. It's what,
Do we
February-
want to do it before our February 18th meeting?
I don't know. Do you need it that fast or faster than that? You need it tonight, probably.
I don't know what
you.
you have to tell us what in addition you would need, because if we're gonna have another session, we're gonna present the same information unless you tell us there's
I
something
know, but
you're
it's a lot
missing.
of information to digest. You know, if you haven't, I don't know.
It's time to do it.
I'm okay moving forward tonight. If you don't feel comfortable, if you wanna have another meeting this week sometime, I'm good with that. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, like you say, I applaud Councilmember Hunt for diving into this. I learned a lot from it. So it's helped me make my decision. I mean, basically it comes down to the two systems. And I just don't see.
Or the pressure filter system too. I mean, you could do that, although the staff
Yeah.
doesn't want to do that
Yeah, and it's,
because of the backwash thing.
right, I mean, like I say, it's come down to two decisions.
Yeah.
You know, it's either, and like I say, at this point, I'm okay with building this gravity system, and then if we need to add it later.
So what do you think, Cheryl?
Well, can I just ask a question about WSB? Are they in the middle of doing the gravity system? See, I'm
No,
not with
they're
you.
on
I don't do
hold.
the water stuff. Why?
No,
okay.
they're on hold until we decide what direction to give to them.
And what options do we have? I guess I'd like to have a meeting where we have options out there, and so I would know why we stopped them, you know, because once you get somebody going, you know, you kind of keep on going. Now, if there's a
Well,
reason for them
because
not to,
one of
that's
the
fine.
things that we changed is that we want to make it so that we can add RO in case it comes
Okay,
down the
but
pipe.
I didn't know
That
that,
was a
but-
change that we're recommending, that we didn't recommend the first time. That, I mean, so there's,
Well, that's something I never even heard about till tonight.
right, so that's what.
That's why I'm, you know.
I don't think it was, we just didn't hear about it. I think
Yeah.
that this design, no matter what happens, could be added.
Could be,
And
yeah.
it just wasn't relayed to us that we had an option to do that. So,
You know, hopefully there's no other things out there that are in the
Madam-
closet.
Madam Mayor?
Skeletons in the
I'm sorry.
closet.
I would maybe to help move the conversation along, is if Mr. Vanderlei is willing to entertain a motion to just move the final design along and see if that has any support.
I'll make the motion to direct WSB to continue on a gravity feed system.
I just want to make sure that everybody's comfortable.
Well, I do too, like I say.
I don't think that precludes us from going on and having another meeting, does it? Or does
Absolutely.
it?
No.
You can decide more later. Let's
To
keep
talk
this
about all
going
the stuff that you've been talking about tonight, some of which I don't,
before we all die.
have not been privy to or have not taken on myself.
Yeah, we can have another meeting. Yeah, I mean, if that's what everybody would like, I'm fine with that.
Or is there a reason why we shouldn't? We shouldn't waste
No,
time,
should.
someone else's
Let's
time
go
and
for it.
money, because we might want to do something else.
Arlene?
I think we should think about it a little bit more and have another meeting on it. Just to digest everything that's gone on tonight. I really do, because I wouldn't be comfortable voting on it tonight.
I'm not either.
I gotta find my calendar. I don't know if I can do it.
Should we do it on
before the
February 18th before our
Yes.
strategy meeting?
Let's do that.
Oh, we have a strategy meeting at 2 though.
Can we do
Right,
it
can we
after
do it
that?
at noon?
I have a council, you guys are, I have a conflict as well afterwards because you're moving your council meeting to a
Oh, that's
Tuesday
right.
because of
Mike,
Oh, yeah.
you won't even
President's
be
Day
here.
and just have
I think that system does everything you want it to do. Let's roll. We got a motion, we didn't get a second.
You gotta ask for a second, what has been asked, so you have to ask if there's a second. There's a motion on the table, and there wasn't a request for a second.
You don't have to request it. If nobody seconds it, it's dead.
Okay.
So you can start over. You can make the same motion and start over and we'll all pay attention. Promise. Go ahead.
Okay, so it dies for
Promise to
lack of
pay
a second.
attention.
All right. So it's dead.
Go ahead.
I don't think I have to. I think it's,
Well, you don't have to. But I heard we were having another meeting, so that's where I'm at. The 17th, we don't meet. The 18th is our next meeting.
Could meet beforehand if that works.
And March
We could
19th
certainly
on
meet
19th.
before the
Oh, that's right.
workshop.
Mark said he's willing to meet before the workshop, that would be at noon.
Like at noon?
Noon.
Certainly could.
On that same day.
Yeah, that would be, what is that,
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
So you wanna do noon on Tuesday?
Tuesday the 18th.
Noon to what?
Are you all, you're
2?
prepared to meet at noon, 2, and 7?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a very long day.
Get her out of the
Pizza
way.
day.
There's no storms then.
Okay, so who's coming?
Everybody.
Is it Mark or who?
Madam Mayor, the action that you would need is a motion to schedule a special meeting at noon on February 18th.
I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded then for the city council to meet at noon on Tuesday, February 18th, to talk about water issues.
Mhm.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion will carry 5-0. And then we have, just a reminder, we have a council meeting that night, and we also have a tree or flag holiday. Okay, okay, what else have we got left here?
EDA meeting.
I believe we had a public works item there as well.
Yeah, you got a motor
Yeah.
grader. Authorization to sale of the motor grader.
So, Madam Mayor,
I'll
if I
make a
could,
motion to sell the grader,
Wait a minute, how much are they selling it?
100,000
Minimum.
minimum,
And that's
We
gonna be
certainly want-
used for what?
to fund other
It
capital.
ultimately goes to the city and you make those decisions. So it's not something that we have.
It's not to fund other equipment that we.
There is a CIP that it could be potentially used for. There's an item that, the city ultimately approved a budget previously accounting for, and part of that budget included the sale of this equipment for about $100,000.
Okay.
So,
Okay. So we can move forward now?
so,
We just made a motion to sell the grader for nothing less than
We already
100,000.
did that.
Yeah.
5-0, yeah. We
Right.
can sell that.
We're done.
Second
Second
it.
it.
I didn't either.
Bob did.
I
It
second
didn't
it.
happen just now, it happened earlier.
No, we didn't
No,
approve,
we
the
didn't.
grader was new.
No, we didn't.
We didn't do
vote
the
on it.
grader.
We did it earlier this evening though, because I
No, we
had
didn't.
5-0 as the vote, and I wouldn't have just done that right now.
Nobody voted.
No, you're thinking of Lyle Park, the tennis courts.
Okay. Not that too late.
Okay, I think that, did I make the motion?
Yeah, you did.
Okay, I made the motion to sell the grader for not less than 100,000, and the money will be returned to the general fund?
Captain.
Second it.
Yeah.
No.
Capital equipment fund.
It's in the
Ca-
budget to sell 100,000 or
Yeah,
100,000 to fund then.
right, so capital improvement fund, sorry.
Yeah, second it.
Done.
All those in favor say aye.
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 5-0. $90,000. Okay.
Now we have to close this meeting and do the EDA meeting.
So,
We don't have council for,
One-
we didn't
one-
do
Lots of other
claims yet?
Oh, yeah, we didn't do the claims.
We do council reports and staff reports.
Claims.
Claims. Anybody have any
late.
issue?
Yes, it is.
Very late.
Yes, it is.
Time this week.
Oh, it's only 10:30, people.
Well, I know,
You
but
wait, I'm
you
calling
can,
you
you
at
can
4:30.
tell. But,
Okay,
I make a motion to approve the claims as written.
second it.
Moved and second, further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries 5-0. Council reports, mine are very short, I read open planning commission last week for 4 or 5 hours, and liaising with the police committee and Rotary and St. Bonnie, and so, Mr. Angelini, hear it.
I have none.
Save the Lake is Wednesday night at Lafayette Club. Anybody feel like coming? It's usually kind of fun.
It is fun, I've got a lot of.
I have nothing.
I'm gonna go this year.
We're done.
Staff report?
The staff report?
Very quickly, Madam Mayor and Council, just to clarify for the record, we do have a meeting on noon, 12 o'clock on the 18th.
Right.
For a special meeting, you need to set the agenda, so the agenda would be to discuss the water treatment. Staff would then recommend a second meeting, be a special meeting for February 18th at 2 o'clock PM for the purposes of discussing our strategic plan. So that date was confirmed by Mr. Rapp. That does work, and so the official action you would need to take is to schedule that meeting for 2 o'clock for that purpose.
And then at 7 o'clock, we have a meeting, right?
Yes.
And at 7 o'clock, you have the regular meeting, correct? So staff would be looking for a motion to schedule that special meeting as well.
Make a motion to for a special meeting on February 18th at 2 o'clock, 2 PM.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
What about the noon meeting?
Already did that one.
So that was previously approved, so we do have the noon meeting for the purpose of the water
And-
treatment, and now we have the 2 o'clock special
7
meeting
o'clock
for the
is
purpose of
regular.
the strategic plan.
Okay, now, EDA.
We have to close this meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Motion
And
to
to
adjourn.
adjourn this meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are recording.